And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinthemorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
How about you, Russ? Is Liberty there?
MikeGinthemorning.com.
So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who listen to check out MikeGinthemorning.com. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it, Russ. I said, hit it, Russ. This is a very special edition of the Mike G in the Morning program. We've got a live stream with the one and only Kash Beauchamp. Kash has joined us previously for a live stream, and we got a lot of positive feedback from that. It was wonderful having him on the program, and it is great to have him back. Kash, are you with us?
I'm with you guys. It's great to be with you too. I'm in Idaho Falls, Idaho today. So I haven't been here in 40 years, but it's a beautiful day out here. I'm not seeing any smoke from all these fires out here, so that's good. And I'm ready to roll, buddy.
Is that out in God's country? Would you say that's God's country?
Yeah, I just left. I just left Billings, Montana this morning and flew to Idaho Falls, and I'm starting my scouting tour now, and I just couldn't have picked a better part of the country, I don't think, to start scouting. It's interesting that the league that I started my professional baseball career in, it's called the Pioneer League, and in 1982, after I got drafted, they sent me to Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada, and it was in the Pioneer League, and we actually won the first championship in the history of the Blue Jays organization. No team had ever won a championship before, and we had David Wells on that team, and Pat Borders, who was a World Series MVP, just to name a couple of really solid big league players, and it was a great first year, and I really love this part of the country. It's just gorgeous. I usually hate bus rides, but the bus rides during the day through the Rockies, there's nothing like it. I was wide-eyed, and because I'd never seen the Rocky Mountains before, and I came out here, and I just couldn't believe how beautiful it was. It's a beautiful part of the country for sure.
Slightly different than Oklahoma, correct?
Yeah, it's Oklahoma, where I'm from, is not what everybody thinks. I think a lot of people think of Oklahoma as being flat, kind of desolate, kind of plains, but I live in the northeast corner of the state, and it's the foothills of the Ozark Mountains. So tons of hills, tons of trees, lakes. It's more of the Ozark Mountains than it really is like Western Oklahoma. It gets really flat and windy and tumbleweeds and all that, but I never saw a tumbleweed until I came out west. So and then those things fly across the road, they'll almost make you wreck your car.
Right.
Especially at night. They'll scare the crud out of you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's where I'm from in Oklahoma is it's called green country, and it's not as brown as the rest of Oklahoma.
So it is like parts of Oklahoma, just not like others. So not exactly the most surprising thing in the world. I want to back up a little bit. Kash, did you get any pushback or catch any flack from joining us on this program a few months back? Because this is conservative talk radio, and the state of professional sports right now is very social justice, woke type oriented, wouldn't you say?
Right. Yeah, I would. I was listening to Aubrey Huff the other day, speaking on Fox. I believe he was on Fox, and he was talking about all the major league players that are afraid to speak out. They're scared. They're just scared. And the thing is I did not receive one that I know of, and I could care less either way.
Awesome.
I mean, I really don't care if but I didn't receive one negative comment. I haven't received it. Now my spam calls have kind of doubled in the last couple of weeks, so somebody must have put me on a spam list or something. But no, I really did not. Of course, you know, a lot. I just the thing is that I feel like if you tell the truth and that whatever happens is going to happen, and if you're telling the truth, then I mean, how bad can it be? You
Right.
know, you're still on the right side, in my opinion. So, and that's why I really try to every day be honest, fair, and truthful, and that's the way I try to live my life. I really do. And sometimes I fail like everybody else, but I think we've got to understand that we're all humans and we all make mistakes, and I may make a mistake today. I hope not, but you got that beeper on standby. That thing that beeps out the cussing.
Right. We call that the Jazzy Ralph button. That's what
There we go.
The Jazzy Ralph button. We have to constantly remind this one gentleman that you can't say the F word on the air. So
And then he does it almost every time.
he does it almost every time, regardless.
I do it enough at the ballpark. I don't do it away from the ballpark.
That is a good policy to have. Now, Cash, when we spoke with you last, it was April, I believe. So we're getting ready for baseball season. Were you coaching at that point in time? Were you already out there?
Yeah, I was just starting. I was just getting ready to leave to go to our spring training with the independent league club that I'm a hitting coach with, and I don't know if the listeners know or not, but I kind of double dip. I scout as well as I'm a hitting coach for an independent league club, a Canadian club, and then I also scout independent baseball for a major league organization. So I'm just I was just getting ready to take off and start my season. So it was a good time. I've been listening to everything all winter, so I was pretty fired up the last time you called me. So once baseball gets going, I get a little busier, but I still try to stay in touch with current events and what's going on in the world. And, I watch multiple news channels. I want to get everybody's side of it. And I try to educate myself and prepare myself for what, hopefully, in the next couple of years, things are going to start getting better. But I've never.
Well,
really
we would hope so. I don't. I don't know if I had to put money on it. I don't know if that's where my money would be, but we would hope so. Don't you think?
I can't believe how what has happened to this country in 6 months. I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I have to experience it every day. It's like I come to the hotel this morning. They don't have any rooms ready. The poor front desk worker who's working her tail off, they can't hire anybody because nobody wants to work. These people that are keeping these hotels running, you cannot believe what they're doing. I mean, the manager is also housekeeping. She's also doing the laundry. I mean, I see him work the front desk, and then when somebody leaves, they run back and they start folding towels. People are working their butts off for us. And people, what I would say is if you go to a hotel, you need to have some patience because these people are trying their best to offset what the left has done to this country, and that's pay people off so they don't have to work. And they're trying to ruin small business. It seems to me like, and what's going on is just sad because the people that are working they're working themselves almost to death.
Sure.
And I'm not the most patient dude in the world either. So, but I understand. I've been in enough hotels and restaurants to understand what's going on, and it's sad, and it's really sad. they're trying to get people to come to work, and they can't even get people to show up for interviews on time. I mean, I don't know where I don't know where this country's work ethic has gone. Obviously, it's depressing. It's really depressing to see what's going on, and it aggravates me. But I have a lot of compassion for the people that are out there working and grinding and trying to keep their businesses alive. And it's just one of the saddest things I've ever seen in this country.
Yeah, it's crazy right now. Like you said, it's amazing how quickly things change too.
Sure.
Yeah, in 6 months. I mean, in 6 months, it's seriously. I have played in several countries that I guess they would be considered third world countries. I played in Venezuela. I played in the Dominican Republic. I lived in the Dominican Republic when my dad played there, and then I played in Puerto Rico as well. And obviously Venezuela, when I was there in the 80s, it was a great place. Not anymore. Not anymore. But I'm starting to see a lot of the stuff that was happening in Venezuela start to happen over here too. Like these rolling blackouts, businesses closing because they have no water, buildings collapsing in Florida. I mean, this is third world country type stuff.
Right.
And it's happened in 6 months. And I'm an American. If I wanted to live in a third world country, I would move to one. And honestly, I see us heading in that direction. And because I have experienced it over there. I've turned the water faucet on in Venezuela, and mud came out of the shower head.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, you would have thought you just turned the water was coming directly from the Mississippi River. And
must have been a room for a pitcher.
I tell you, it just you expect that over there. You expect that, okay? You don't expect that crap here, and it's starting to happen, man. With these, electricity, just basic things.
It's crazy.
It's scary. It's scary.
Now, Kash, I want to back up a little bit. Before we get further into that, I want to bring you back to April when we had our discussion and you getting prepared for your season and everything. Now, how many years have you been doing this? I know you mentioned the last program that you've been playing baseball your entire adult life, and every meal you've ever eaten has come from baseball.
Yes.
What year number is this, if you don't mind us asking?
This is 39. Next year,
39.
Wow.
Next year, my first year in professional baseball was 1982. So where I went to the Pioneer League, I played in Medicine Hat, and I started my professional baseball career in 1982. And we're moving in on 40 years. And next year will be my 40th year in the game, and I don't know where it went and how fast. It's flown by, as life does. But in my 40 years of doing this, I've learned a lot. Made mistakes along the way. I've had a few successes along the way, and more failures than successes, which is the nature of the beast in baseball. But
Right.
The failure is what is what you learn from, and my career in baseball now is about learning from my failures, correcting those failures, and being able to understand where players are coming from when they're 0 for 10. But I'm glad I went through that, because I'm able to help people, because I went through some tough times at times with injuries. About everything positive and negative that could happen to a ball player has happened to me. So I've pretty much seen and done it all in these 39 years. And it's all about helping other people now. And that's where I'm at in my career, trying to help these young players and trying to honestly help the game become a better game. It's almost at a breaking point to me, where Major League Baseball is. And we talked in length about my disdain for not only Major League Baseball, but sports becoming politicized. It's disgusting, and it's we go to ball games to get away from politics. We go to ball games to come together as a community to pull for a mutual team, and they're trying to divide us in the stands now.
Right.
and it's disgusting and it's sickening. And I will not be a part of it. I will not be a part of I have a hard time saying this. Politicizing sports. I will not be
Right.
a part of that.
Now,
The
Cash, let's back up just a
politicization
little
of it.
bit. Back up just a little bit because I definitely want to get into that further. But before we do, I don't want to skip over something. I think you
No.
mentioned something that's very important about how you've been through all these different things in the game, and that has prepared you for different aspects of life, and you're able to pass that down. Do you think people realize how much exactly baseball can teach somebody about life?
It's amazing. It'll teach you every life lesson that you can possibly be taught. It really can. And people that play sports, in my opinion, that have the ability that God has given them the ability to play sports and be healthy enough and be athletic enough to do that. It will expose your character or it will build your character, one or the other.
Right.
And I've done both. I've let it do both to me. And when I was young and immature, it exposed my flaws on a daily basis. My bad temper, my just disdain for losing. I always say I hate losing more than I enjoy winning, and that's really not healthy. And I've really had to work on that over the course of my career. I would get extremely angry at myself when I would fail on the baseball field. Being a first round pick and a first overall pick, it's almost a trap. You feel like you've got that you have to lead the league in hitting every year, and you have to be the best player in the league every year because you were a first overall pick, and it's a lot of pressure, And when I was young, it brought out some the bad side of me very easily came out after an 0 for 5, or as long as we won, I was okay with an 0 for 5. But if we lost and I went 0 for 5, I took it very hard. I took it very hard, and even 1 for 4, I would take it hard when we lost. Even
now, is that
4
because you
when we
felt
lost.
like you were letting the team down and you didn't contribute to the success?
It's multiple things. That was my number one. I love my teammates, and it's almost like a band of brothers. The movie, you're in a foxhole together, so to speak. And that locker room is like a foxhole, and you become a band of brothers in there, and you don't want to let your brothers down. It's almost military type stuff. Of course, I would never compare professional baseball to what our Warriors do for us in the country, and that's my biggest regret, Mike, in my life. To be honest with you, I look back on it. If I could, there's several things I would change, of course, but one thing I really wish that I could have served my country in some aspect in the military. And that's something that I feel like if baseball would have kind of petered out for me in college and I would have never played pro ball, I definitely think I would have gone to a branch of the military, be it the Army or the Marines. I would think that one of those two would probably be one of the branches that I would have chose, one of those two. And really tried to serve my country in that aspect. And because I do think sports and the military have a lot in common.
And in that regard, definitely the camaraderie that's involved and how everybody's got one another's backs and everybody's got to contribute to the goal that's at hand and everything like that. Certainly. Do you think that that's something that people miss when often you'll hear people say, well, chances of making it to the major leagues for one game, let alone several years, are so slim that I'm just not going to give it a shot. Even if I've got a certain level of talent, I'm not even going to give it a try because the odds of getting there are so slim. Do you think that they're missing the point to a degree because they're losing out on the experience gained by playing, let's say, college sports and learning that stuff about your character and building your character? Are they missing the point with that?
You know what? And I think what you're talking about right now, Mike, is more of the sign of the times now with the generation of players that we have today. there's a different mentality now than when I played. It's massively different. Players today, they give themselves windows of, if I don't make it by this time, I never gave myself a window. I was going to play baseball until they tore the uniform off of me because hey, let's be frank, I didn't want to get a real job. What's better than playing professional baseball out there? I don't care if it's in the minor league. There's something about competing to me and that matchup versus a pitcher. I was a hitter. So that one-on-one matchup versus a hitter is something that I've never been able to replace in my life. The feeling that I get from it, the concentration, the focus that it takes. You could have 10,000 people in the stands, 20,000 people in the stands calling you every name in the book, and you hear every name they call you in the on-deck circle. But as soon as you step in the batter's box, if you're focused the way you're supposed to be focused, everything disappears. It just goes silent. And I don't know if that's because I was so ADHD as a young man, and I probably still am to some extent, that I could, when I was focused on the task at hand, everything else disappeared. And, my poor significant other, Penny, if I'm on the computer, she could be carrying on a conversation with me, and it might as well be the wall because I don't hear a word she says. And I feel when I lock in on something like that, and I don't hear anything else, and I think that's just because I was so hyper focused, and you have to be to hit a baseball coming at you at 90 miles an hour,
right?
You're hitting a round ball with a round bat, and you fail 7 out of 10 times, and you're considered Hall of Fame caliber. I mean, that's a lot of negativity. That's a lot of failure.
Right.
And it takes a tremendous amount of focus to even succeed. In my case, 2.88 times per, I'd get 2.88 hits for every 10 at bats. I was a 288 career hitter, and or 280 something. I don't even remember. It's 280 something, but that's a lot of failure, man. And
sure.
One thing is I always felt like if I was hitting below 300, I was failing. A lot of guys today are satisfied. They think they're doing great hitting 265, 270. I hit 267 my first full year. I hit 320 my first year in short season, and then I hit 267 my first full year, and I felt like I was going to get released. And guys are perfectly happy hitting 267 now. But players today, Mike, they give themselves windows, and it's almost like baseball's a grind to them, and to a lot of them. And I'm not saying everybody. There are some old school dirtbags still playing out there, man. I'm telling you, there's some guys that still play the game that could have played in my era, but there's very few and far between now that play the game with the mentality that we played it. And we never thought about not playing baseball, to be honest with you. I don't think I ever played with a teammate that they were going to have to release us. We never quit. We never retired. There's a lot of kids that will quit after a certain amount of time. They'll quit. Nobody quit when I played, man. Everybody got released, and nobody wanted to get released. But that's how our careers came to an end for them, as a whole. But players today, they're different. It's just a different generation. It's a different mentality, and kids are raised different now than they were raised when I was growing up. And as a coach, it's something that I've had to change as I've come back and coached. I've got to understand the mentality of the player today. And, I'm more fatherly now than I was when I was younger. I put my arm around them more now, and I build them up. You got to build these guys up, man. There's a time and a place maybe to kick their butt a little bit, but man, it used to be about 50-50. I would say it's about 90-10 now, where you got to put your arm around them, and you got to build them up and talk to them in a fatherly way. And that's where I've really changed as a coach. I think if I went back and played, if I still had the ability to play and my hamstrings wouldn't explode out the back of my legs, and I could still play, I think I would go back and I would play exactly like I played when I played in the 80s.
Sure.
So I wouldn't change anything about the way I went about my business. And I looked for players, honestly, that played the way I played. Because I knew this, when I was done, when I left the field that day, whether I was 0 for 5 or 4 for 5. It was all left on the field that day. And my uniform was about 90% of the time, my uniform was filthy. So, and that was one of my goals, is to never come to try to get dirty every game.
Let me ask you this, Cash. When I was playing, we talked about that attitude that has changed. Talked about the kinds of people who say, you know what, it's not a legitimate or realistic goal for me to play in the big leagues, given my abilities or whatever. I would always have rather played with a guy who said, no, never mind that. I don't care what anybody says. I am going to the big leagues, period. I'm going to do everything that I have to do to get there, and I am going to the big leagues. And maybe you'd look at them like they were nuts on certain occasions, but I'd just much rather have somebody on my side and playing with our club who had that attitude. Is there something to be said about that?
Absolutely, there is. And honestly, I look for players as a scout that have that attitude. And I tell you, man, when I say, I call it, I call it dog. A player's got to have some dog in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's got to have some junkyard dog in it, man. And I look for those guys. They're harder to find now than ever before. It seems to me like a lot of players nowadays are more concerned about their hair flow and their beards and their look than they are the product that they're putting out on the field and their tattoos and all this stuff. And hey, I got tattoos too. So I mean, I got one, but I'm not against any of that. But you know, I want to tell a quick story about a former manager of mine who I really respect. Was walking through the locker room one day, and a couple of their higher round draft picks were supposed to be out on the field stretching, and they were standing in front of the mirror when they should have been on the field. And they probably had a couple of $1 million in the bank and probably made, more money when they signed their contract. And that manager probably will make his whole career. And, and the manager goes, what are you guys doing, man? He goes, hey, Skip, what's up, man? Look good, play good, right? He just rolled his eyes and walked out of the locker room. Now, what I would have done was I would have probably grabbed them by their belts and the back of their collar and thrown their ass out of the locker room. That's probably what I would have done. But, you can't do that anymore. But, they say you can't do it anymore, which I don't truly believe in. I believe that young people in America still crave discipline. Whether they think they want it or not, I'm going to tell you something. Discipline is the reason, a lack of discipline is the reason not only sports is in the shape it's in right now, but the country's in the shape that it's in right now. Because I truly believe that children and even young adults crave discipline. Because I do believe that discipline is one of the greatest signs as a parent, me disciplining my children is one of the hardest things I'll ever have to do in my life. But as a child who had a father that disciplined me, the one thing I always knew when my dad used to whoop my ass, he used to take the belt from me and whoop my butt. And I'm going to tell you something. When it was all said and done, I always knew that my dad loved me and he cared about me. That's why he did what he did. And when I became a parent, disciplining my children, I could not believe how hard it was. I thought it would be easy, but it's very difficult. But I never bought into the parental guidance of the way I want to parent is to be my kid's BFF.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing now. Everybody wants their kids to be their BFF, their best friend forever. I don't care if my kids like me or not. They have to respect me. And it's not a whole lot different when you're a coach. I don't care if my players like me or not, but they have to respect me, and respect is earned. Respect is not demanded. Respect is earned. So you have to go about it and you have to get it the right way. And there's a balance of being, I'm not sitting here telling you I was an ogre to my kids and I was like, Cinderella's stepmother and just abusing them on a daily basis. But man, I love my kids more than anything in the world, and I want nothing but success for them. And I'm very proud of all three of them. They are all three successful members of society that all three are working. They're not living off the government. They bust their butt every day. And look, I am so proud of my children. I couldn't even begin to start. But man, they grew up tough, man. They grew up tough. They got out of line. They got their butts whipped. And I didn't have to do it hardly at all. I did it one. I think I got each of them one time really good early on, and that kind of stuck with them. And
Right.
I don't think a lot of kids need the butt whippings that I need, because I think kids are a lot calmer now than I was. I was out of control.
You were in a different
I had so
category.
Oh, I was the ADHD poster boy before ADHD was even invented. They'd have had me so loaded up on Ritalin, it wouldn't have been funny when I was growing up. But Ritalin wasn't even in existence then, or Adderall and all the stuff they're taking now for that.
Yeah.
I guarantee my mom and my teachers probably wished I was on some. But yeah.
But do you think that being a coach and being a parent, the similarities are that, as a coach and as a parent, it would be nice for your children and your players to like you, right? You don't want them
Yeah.
to dislike you, but sometimes
Right.
there are things that need to be done that they're not necessarily going to be happy about at the outset. Like if you would have come into the locker room and watched that guy doing his hair in the mirror, which is the least important thing, look good play. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I
you gotta
couldn't
be kidding me
stand
with
when
that.
I got into the locker room and I saw guys, standing there in the mirror before the game.
Mm.
Give me 9 dirt bags out there. That's who I want to play
Yeah.
ball with.
Well,
Guys
that's what I look for as a scout. That's what I look for, brother. And is when I'm scouting, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that guy that is not afraid to lay out with a runner on second base and dive to keep a ball from going into the outfield to save a run. I can't believe how many times I see guys that could dive and knock a ball down, not even make a play. But
right.
if that ball goes to the outfielder, that runner on second's going to score.
Mhm.
You give me guys that will lay out with a runner on second base to knock a ball down when he knows he doesn't have a chance to get an out to save a run. That's the type of dude I'm looking for, because that doesn't show up in the box score, and it really should. There should be a stat for that. Analytics has taken over baseball. I would love to see a stat for a guy that it would be called like saving a run saving or saving a run. SAR, call it SAR, saving a run. That means the guy that lays out, knocks a ball down to keep it from going into the infield, that sacrifices his body possibly to save a run for his ball club. I'm looking for guys like that, and there are guys that do that still. There are few
Sure.
further between, and Major League Baseball is a big part of the problem, because what they've done is they've wussified the game and sissified the game to the point where you can't break up double plays anymore. You can't run over catchers anymore. Home plate used to be fought over when I played. I mean,
Right.
when the game was on the line, you had a decision to make as a catcher and as a base runner. You're going to block the plate, maybe take a chance on getting your rear end knocked into the dugout by that base runner, or as a base runner, are you willing to plow a catcher to score a run if he's blocking the plate? I mean, that there was a war over the plate when I played, and nowadays they have rules where you have to give him a sliding lane. You can't block the plate. I mean, come on, man. I mean,
Yeah, I remember we had that
the
in
reason
Little
I
League
didn't
when
get
I
to the
played,
big
right?
league,
Did they have that in Little
What-
League when you were playing?
Excuse me, you're
they
in my
did in
way.
high school. No,
High
I
school.
got plowed in Little League. I was
Yeah.
a catcher in Little League, man, because I wanted to be where the action was. I'm the furthest thing from the catcher in the world. I was a center fielder when I played, but I wanted to catch because I wanted to be in the middle of the action. Nobody wants to play outfield in Little League,
Right.
But I got plowed, man. I got plowed in Little League when I was catching, man. But then when we got to high school, they implemented that rule where you couldn't run over catchers in high school because, if you don't really know how to play the game at a professional level, kids were trying to hurt kids. You know what I mean? When there wasn't even a play at the plate. Because
Gotcha.
they don't really know how to play the game. And obviously in the major leagues, if you did something like that, you're going to wear a 94-mile-an-hour fastball in the neck.
Right.
The plate. So, baseball kind of polices itself in the professional game.
But they don't want that done. They don't want that done anymore either, do they?
No. It's like, here's two things that, one thing that baseball, that has almost been eliminated from baseball, that is sad to me, is the arguments that guys like Lou Piniella, Billy Martin, Earl Weaver, these old school managers, man, that there was
Kash,
a
Beauchamp.
reason for. Well, they were my influences, so that's where that came from. To be honest with you, I mean, Billy Martin. I thought, to this day, I think Billy Martin's the greatest manager that's ever managed. I really do. I just, the guy was a baseball savant and a genius, and he motivated with different ways. He motivated his players through toughness, through just hardcore, old school, mentality. And he was a brawler on and off the field. And unfortunately, he was probably my influence as far as a guy that I really respected and watched. Even though I was a Red Sox fan growing up, believe it or not, because
Oh
Fred Lynn
no, this
boy.
interview
Fred
is
Lynn-
over, Kash. It's
I was
over.
too. I was born in Boston. So.
Yeah, Fred Lynn was my favorite player, and that's why I wear 19 every chance I could get 19. I wore it because Fred Lynn was my favorite player, because I kind of patterned my game after him, because I really respected the way he played the game. Crashed into walls, dove for balls. I mean, he was a very big influence on me as a player, but as a manager, I think Billy Martin was probably the guy. Even though I was a Red Sox fan, I just respected the crud out of Billy Martin and his baseball knife. He was the guy overcame the odds to even play in the big leagues. He was a runt. He was a skinny little rat that didn't have a lot of, but he would grind it out, man. And man, I really respected his playing and managerial career. And those arguments with umpires, man, the crowd loves it. They eat it up. But now Major League Baseball thinks that's politically incorrect or something.
Right.
But
yeah.
You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings now.
I mean, people would want to show up to the ballpark to watch Billy Martin. And I know for a fact people would show up to the ballpark in Wichita wanting to see Kash Beauchamp. That's why they were showing up, right?
Well, I feel like if you listen to the video that all you got to do is go to YouTube and pull it up. I don't want you to watch the video as much as I want you to listen to the reaction of the crowd. Okay? And then you got to understand also after that argument, our team, who had been flat as a board for 6 days, with 2 outs, we scored 4 runs with 2 outs after that. Because I knew that's what that ball club needed. They needed to know that I had their back, and that I've got some passion and fire, and hopefully it rubs off on them. And it did that day. And it cost me a 4-game suspension, but it got us out of a 6-game losing streak. And I'll trade 4 games for 6 games any day. I think we went on 1 6 in a row after that. So,
Is that what's changed? I mean, I feel like everything we're talking about, from players standing in front of the mirror to changing the rules of the game to what's valued as far as performance goes with these analytics and everything, does it really all come down to priorities? Because what you're saying right here is, hey, I had to get out there and I had to show my team that I had their back. And as a ball player, I can tell you that absolutely means something. You could just see it's palpable sometimes when a coach goes out there and goes to bat for his guys and shows them that it gets the guys fired up. You see a swing of momentum. It's just a fact. And you made that conscious decision that I'm willing to get tossed in order to do this. I'm willing to get tossed in order to rally my guys and show them I've got their back. And it had a positive outcome. So ultimately, this all comes down to what is the priority, isn't it?
To me, the priority is as a manager is number one, to win ball games.
Right.
It's number one to win ball games, but you have to motivate your players to win. You have to coach them up to win. And what I started noticing as the game started getting softer is I started losing a quarter of my clubhouse. I would start to see a quarter of my players that really didn't respond to that. You know what I mean? And then half the clubhouse didn't respond to it. And I believe that people think in this day and age that players cannot play for a manager like that. I think that's total garbage. I think it's total garbage. I think you could bring, what's happening, Tony La Russa is managing the White Sox right now. Tony La Russa, I played for that man. That guy's not going to change. That guy is not going to change who he is. You know, they say a leopard can't change their spots. There's no way. And look, I've seen some incidents with Tony this year that hasn't changed one bit, and good for him. Good for Tony La Russa. You know, and you know, he pisses half the players off in the locker room, I'm sure. I mean, I think Lance Lynn and him got into it, and I love the quote that Tony got in. There was something controversial earlier in the year with Tony, and everybody was making a big political deal out of it or whatever it was. And then Lance Lynn wants to chime in because some of these players think they have, because they make more money than the manager, they think they have more power than the manager. That's not Tony La Russa. And Tony La Russa's quote was absolute a gem, in my opinion. He goes, "What's that guy talking for? He's got a locker. I got an office. He needs to shut his mouth and play." I got an office. He's got a locker. I said, he can say whatever he wants because he thinks he makes all this money or whatever. But all I know is I got an office and he's got a locker. He needs to shut his mouth and go out and win us a ball game. And you know, or to some extent like that. That's not word for word a quote, but I guarantee that's the point he tried to get across. And I'll tell you this right now, it was a breath of fresh air for me. And all I know is that old man is kicking some butt. So the White Sox are having a good year. And
but falling into line and recognizing the hierarchy is really also a part of contributing to that top priority, which is winning ball games, isn't it? It's the team, and the success of the team is more important than my individual comfort or my individual success even. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. And as a manager, Mike, as a manager, as I got older, as a manager, I became more fatherly. But as a father to this day, you know, if I've got a son that's 30, I've got one that's in his early 20s, and I've got a daughter in her mid 20s. And you know, they if they get out of line to this day, you know, we have my discipline days are over with my kids for the most part. But sometimes if I see something going wrong, I mean, I'm still their dad.
Right.
But you know, thanks the Lord, I haven't had to do that. The last time I did it, I had to drag my son out of a principal's office by his collar because he was accused of some things. And I took him and I said, if you fail this drug test, I will go to jail because I will beat your ass. and with my fist, because the kid was old enough at the time that and thank goodness for him, he passed. But I took him straight. He was the a guy that got caught with some marijuana in the parking lot. He implicated my son, and my son was in the office. And you know, I'm not one of these parents that come in and automatically attack the principal because they got my son in the office. I'm taking the principal's side until other things are proven. And you're basically, if the principal or a teacher says, you know, these poor teachers, you know, I've got my stepdaughter's a teacher, a fourth grade teacher, and I cannot tell you how many times kids have used the F word towards her.
No, really?
Fourth grade.
Yeah, and they are not allowed to discipline these children.
That's the problem.
And it 100%. It's the problem with the world, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem with the world. There is no discipline and there is no leadership with stones.
Right.
And that's the problem with this country. There are no leaders. We had one for 4 years. And the last time I looked, this country was running pretty good. The last time I looked. And look, you know, I am a independent voter. I am not a Republican. I am not a Democrat. I may become a Republican again when they kick these rhinos to the curb. Okay,
Right.
when they go to the curb, I will not be associated with somebody like Liz Cheney or Kinzinger. They're traitors. They're like a catcher giving the signs to the hitter, telling him what's coming.
Right.
That's what those cruds are like.
Mhm.
You know, pick a side. If you want to be on a side, hey, we're divided. Hey, don't. You know, I do believe we need to come back to some sort of middle.
Mm,
100%
be nice.
as a country. We've got to come back to some sort of middle.
Yeah.
But you know, to backstab your own side, man, screw that. I mean, that's the biggest. Hey, I respect Democrats more than I respect a rhino, because Democrats,
Right.
at least they are loyal to their jacked up causes.
Hmm.
You know, their far left causes. And look, my mom's a Democrat, but she's a JFK Democrat, and I'm trying to tell her, hey, Mom, your
Not
people
the
don't
same.
exist anymore.
Yeah,
They don't
right.
exist anymore.
Not the same.
Mm.
A JFK Democrat does not. I grew up a JFK Democrat in a Democratic family. So I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. And I vote for what's best for the Constitution and who best represents my beliefs are the Constitution of the United States and the Holy Bible. That's what I believe in. So I vote accordingly to that. And I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, or independent. I'm going to vote
Billy
for the
Chris,
best
do you
person
remember
for
what
the job.
Johnny Bruno called the rhinos, his new name for the rhinos? We've got a new name for them on this program.
Oh, I vaguely remember that, but I can't quite remember. What was it again?
You are getting old.
Yeah, I
This
am.
is something you really can't forget.
I
He
was in
said
the
that
Senate too many years. Yeah.
Cash he said that we have a listener who called on in, said that his new name for the rhinos is he's going to call them farts.
That's
Fake
what
ass Republican tyrants.
That's what it was. Yeah.
That's what they are. Hey, look, man. That condescending Liz Cheney, she makes me want to puke. I'm telling you, man. I listen to her and her holier than thou attitude, like she's better than everybody else. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. Go to the other side where you belong. You know, it's a joke. It's just they don't represent. That person does not, even though they're so-called Republicans or conservatives, they're phony. They're phony. They're everything that's wrong with politics.
Mhm.
You know, they're politicians. Give me some Marjorie Taylor Greene any day. Give me some of that.
Yeah, she's
Give me
she's
some of
exciting.
that's a person that's got fire.
Mhm.
That's got passion, and she's one of us. She's an American. She's a hardworking American that's run a business. And give me some of that. That's original. That's genuine. That's not phony. That's real. That's what I'm after. I want real people representing me.
Cash, I want to go back to this generational business that we were talking about. And you mentioning that you have fourth graders using the F word towards school teachers and no discipline is allowed. Would that have happened when you were growing up?
I literally got whipped with a paddle at school, okay, by teachers, by principals.
For
If
less
you got
than
a-
using the F word towards them, right? For less
Probably
than
didn't
that.
hold a door
that
open or
was
something.
That was not even. I mean, I used to get it for like making fart sounds under my arm with my hand, doing stuff like that. You know, maybe getting in a scrap in the, maybe getting in a little scrap in the football game we're playing at recess, and it gets a little bloody, and there's some fisticuffs out there. You know, stuff like that. You know, that for us to disrespect a teacher like that, it was not even. I never saw it. I never heard it.
It's not something you would think about back then.
You didn't even think about it because you knew if you went home, you were going to, if I got 3 licks at school, I was going to get 12 when I got home. And that's the way I was raised. Somewhere, parents have lost the ability to discipline their children in the way the Bible calls for your children to be disciplined. And you know, hey, there's a difference between a spanking and a beating.
Right.
Okay? There's a difference between getting swats at school and having a teacher choke you out or punch you in the face. Okay. And let me tell you something. Every teacher that swatted my tail with a paddle when I was in school, guess what? I respect them to this day, and they were my favorite teachers because I knew they cared about me. I knew they cared about me. And look, you know, and spare the rod, spoil the child. I believe it's the saying. The saying goes, if you want to look around at some children today that are fourth and third graders dropping F-bombs on their teachers and calling them, you know, the B word and, you know, a-holes. And I mean, we're talking about third and fourth graders now. All right. So the children are spoiled because the rod has been spared and they're rotten, to be honest with you. And I used to substitute teach in the off season. I couldn't do it now. I would go to jail if I substitute taught in the off season. The first kid that dropped an F-bomb to me, it might be on if it was over 18. It might be on. And I knew I had to move away from substitute teaching because I could see it starting to get that way. And I had a run in with a kid, and I just, you know, he was cussing me in the hall where nobody could hear me. And I just said, look, bro, you're a senior, you're 18. This is a small town. I may see you in town someday. And you know, it was the conversation between, of course, I got called into the office because he runs home and tells mommy, and mommy runs up to the principal, and I have to go to the office. Kash said he would beat me up if he saw me in town. Well, he said, hey, this is an 18-year-old kid that flipped a pencil across the room and almost put another kid's eye out. And I called him out into the hall, and he was going to be a real tough guy toward me. And you know, I just knew then that it may be time for me to find another off-season job. So I started refereeing.
Well, do you think that, because you mentioned that if you were to get in trouble in school, not only would there be repercussions at school, but your parents would obviously be involved, much like you were with your son in that story. And do you think that parents have become more lazy, and that is why this is a problem? Because if you're turning over the role of disciplining children and being responsible for the way they behave, if you're turning that over to the government and turning that over to the school, then once they get in charge, they can make decisions like, okay, if they call you the F word, then you can't respond. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's out of the parents' hands at that point, and we end up with this kind of generation. Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. You're right on the money, dude. It's 100% correct. And you know, it's just sad that it is. And here's what I truly believe. In my experience with players, I've gone from being nowadays, you know, I'm good cop and bad cop. I used to be bad cop, and I'd have a coach that was a good cop. You know what I mean? I'd always have a coach. One of my coaches was good cop, and I would be the bad cop. But I started seeing that the players need a balance, and let me just say this. When I say players, you can also say I parent the same way. I started coaching and managing more as a father than as a guy that's just got to get these bunch of dudes to play hard and piss them off. And you know, like I said, there is way more fatherly, because that's what works now. It's what works. Okay, now, there are certain players nowadays that need a kick in the butt. And they can, but you got to know that they can handle it. And that motivates them. It motivated me. I liked it when managers got in my ass. I liked it when they called me out. I remember one day, one of my favorite managers I ever had, who's still managing in the minor leagues today, his name is Dennis Holmberg. And he's been with the Blue Jays organization before I was with it 40 years ago, and he's still in the organization. And what he does now is he manages the lower levels, because he teaches these guys how to be professionals. And he was great. And he had to teach me. I remember one day I struck out with the bases loaded. I came in and I fired my batting helmet against the bat rack, and it ricocheted and hit him in the leg. You know what he did? He grabbed me by the arm and he beat me with the helmet in the leg 3 times. If
Oh.
a manager did that today, he hit me with the helmet 3 times, and then he fired the helmet, and he said, "That's what it's like." And guess what? I learned a lesson. I never slammed my helmet, and I may have slammed it on the field, but I never threw my helmet in the dugout again, ever, ever. A lesson was taught and a lesson was learned, and I love that man for that. I love that man to this day for that. And I'm so happy he's still in the game of baseball, and he's made it. He's made it through. There was a purge of good baseball men a few years ago, and the purge is still going on. But some guys have slipped through. Brian Snitker, the manager for the Atlanta Braves, has survived the purge of good baseball men. And now we have all had to change our feathers a little bit. Our spots have had to change a little bit to be able to manage the players that are playing now. And we're constantly adjusting. But those 2 men, Dennis Holberg and Brian Stigler, I guarantee there's still some discipline aspect to his ball club, because I did see Brian Snicker take Acuna down, the best player in baseball. I think the best player in baseball now, Ronald Acuna, took him down he didn't hustle one time, and he took him down in the tunnel. And I know what Brian Snicker said, because he spent enough time around my dad, and he was influenced by my father enough to know. By the way, my father spent 26 years with the Atlanta Braves organization in the minor leagues and the major leagues. So, and he played for the Mets, and a lot of people remember him, Jim Beauchamp, playing for the Mets, in the 70s and in the Northeast where you guys are at. And the Mets and the Phillies would go at it all the time. So, Dad was on those teams, and the Pirates and the Phillies and the Mets, they would go at it, man.
Right.
And they were fighting it out every year. In 73, they played in the World Series. 72, they were terrible. But they made it to the World Series in 73, and the Mets had to make a huge comeback. And I think they beat the Phillies and the Pirates, a couple teams from Pennsylvania there, down the stretch to get into the playoffs. And they knocked out the Big Red Machine, and then the swinging A's, the Cincinnati Reds, they beat in the playoffs. And probably, I think, the 2 best teams that I've ever seen, the Mets faced in the playoffs. It was the Oakland A's in the early 70s and the Cincinnati Reds. They were the 2 best teams I think I've ever seen on a baseball field. I wasn't around for the 27 Yankees, but some of those Yankees teams were really good too, that Billy Martin had. But,
there are some of those old school guys who have survived the purge, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely there are. There are. Now they've had to adapt. They've had to adapt, but I would say that.
How so? What have they had to do? Let's talk a little bit about this purge, because I think it's important for people to know about.
It's what I had to do. Is really start recognizing that there are different personalities. We used to treat everybody the same.
Mm-hmm.
But now what I have learned as I've matured as a manager, and with the generational changes, is that everybody has their own personality, and you better identify that personality and what triggers that personality to success. And some guys you gotta pat on the butt, and some guys you gotta kick in the butt. But there are certain things that if a player does, like for me, I have 2 main rules when I managed. And it was number 1 was to be on time. To be on time. And
seems fair, right?
Yeah, it seems like a good idea.
Well, what's that?
That seems like a fair rule.
Yeah, and on time means that you're not throwing that if we're stretching at 3:30, you're not at 3:28 throwing your uniform on trying to sprint out there.
Right.
That's a bad look.
Right.
That's a bad look. I want guys to want to be at the ballpark. I want players that want to be at the ballpark, and good managers still build players or build teams around players that want to be at the ballpark, because we want to be at the ballpark. That's our happy place. That's where we want to be. And honestly, I think the worst thing baseball did is take beer out of the clubhouse after the game. Used to we could sit around and have a cold beer
Mm.
after the game, and now everybody's so worried about somebody getting a DUI, they've taken beer. Yeah, and there's probably some legitimacy to that. But here's the thing: if a player's got a problem as a manager with the drinking, the manager's got to get involved there and say, "Hey, man, maybe you only need to have two after the game, especially if you're going to drive home." So but when they took beer out of the clubhouse, guess what players do? They're going to go out of they're going to get out of the clubhouse in 2 seconds and go find their own beer. They're going to drink their beer no matter what, or their booze or whatever they're going to do. But now everybody's into weed now, and Major League Baseball is totally. They don't give two craps if a guy smokes weed or not. They give two craps. They don't. Back when I played, you get your butt released for that. So Major League Baseball is a part of this too. So it's 6 and 1/2 dozen of. Honestly, between the two, I think players perform better when they're not hungover. So
makes sense.
It's just.
It's not what you think of when you think professional athlete, right? You think, I think that the average person thinks professional athlete, they think, okay, straight edge, no drinking, no drugs, no smoking cigarettes, and they eat right.
Although now they think Mike Phelps,
When I grew up,
I guess so, right?
You know what my dad's off-season training program was?
What's that?
He drank beer and smoked cigarettes. Hey, look, man, you can walk into a locker room when I was a kid growing up and hanging around these. I was a blessed kid. I got to hang around locker rooms. I think I talked about that the last time I was on, about being a very lucky, blessed kid. And for a kid that was just ate up with baseball, to be able to walk into a Cardinals locker room and see Bob Gibson and Lou Brock, or the Mets, see Willie Mays and Tom Seaver, or the Reds and see Pete Rose and Johnny Bench. Are you kidding me? I mean, and you walk into a locker room back then, and it was like you get black lung because everybody's got cigarettes fired up. Those guys smoked left and right, and I mean, they didn't have the weight training that we have, and that we have now, and the off-season workouts that they put guys through, and the knowledge, and these guys, they played hard and they lived hard, and they partied hard too. And
am I misremembering this, or was there a famous clip of Hank Aaron smoking in the dugout and Phil Rizzuto being the commentator saying something like, "I can't believe he's smoking in the dugout. Kids are going to think it's okay to smoke."
Listen, man, Jim Leland smoked the tighter the game was. Earl Weaver called Don Stanhouse full pack. Every time he went to the mound, Earl Weaver would have to go into the tunnel and smoke a full pack of cigarettes because he'd load the bases and then strike out the side every time he went out there. And he'd about give Earl Weaver a hard out. Earl Weaver go down to the tunnel, and my dad smoked in the dugout when he managed. When I played for him. I mean, that was old school baseball players. That's just the way they were. Most of them smoked, or then everybody, dipping. Days. Yeah. I mean, shoot. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. The game really didn't change a lot until, the early 2000s. The game was pretty much the same from when I was a kid and through my whole career playing. It really never changed. It's really started changing, I think, in the 2000s, and just as the times have changed for whatever reason. I don't know. It's just
have to make baseball great again.
Where we are right
make
now,
baseball great again. I like that. What do you think?
Yeah,
make
that's a great slogan.
There we go.
Bring back the cigarettes.
Right.
Bring back roughing guys up in the dugout.
And some whiskey in the dugout,
I tell you, I remember a saying that we used to say, let's take your women and smoke your cigarettes. We were like Vikings when we played,
There you go.
And we'd go into a series, and we were out there to kick some butt, man. And we weren't out there to. The other thing that bugs me today is everybody's buddy on the field. Everybody's like laughing and goofing off at second with the other. We never even talked to the other team. We hated those guys. Now we go out and maybe have dinner with a buddy that we play college ball with or high school ball with, or we go out. If we did anything with a player from the other team, it was after the game.
Mm.
And if we saw somebody buddy, and we'd always scream, "Hey, take him out to dinner."
Yeah.
That was a very, very common thing that was said to our own teammates who were getting too buddy with the other team. "Hey, take him out to dinner."
Yeah.
Come on, dude. We're trying to kick this guy's butt, man. This guy's trying to steal money from us. I mean, that's the way I looked at pitchers. They're trying to steal money. I would invent like hatred for a pitcher, even though it was a guy I may like.
Yeah.
I would invent psychological reasons to hate that guy. Because
I would
I'd
do the
say,
same
"This
thing
guy's
from
trying
the
to
bump,
steal
Cash,
money
so.
from." What's that?
I said I would do the same thing from the bump. You gotta get
Absolutely.
there somehow, And when you talk
you're a
about
pitcher.
the room for error and making mistakes and failing and everything like that, and the pressure that you put on yourself, you could also think about that from the mound, because you got a good hitter up there. You know that you can't miss by a couple of baseballs or that thing's going over the wall. You
Right.
really got to hit your spots. So it's the same
Exactly.
kind of thing going from both ends.
Exactly. And then you have the hitter on that team. And when I manage, I pick out one guy, and it may not be the cleanup hitter. It may be the guy that's the hottest at the time. But I always pick a dude on that other team that I don't want to let beat me. And if the game's on the line, we may put that guy on. And because the only time I ever shifted in my career was against a red hot hitter. And the only reason I shifted was to try to get in his head, because he's hitting doubles, triples, and home runs left and right. If he hits a single in a vacated spot, I'm almost good with that.
Wow.
But I would only shift the best hitters or the hottest hitters, a guy that's just wearing the league or or my team out. A Bo Torbert, who was one of the best independent league hitters I ever saw, who's a bodybuilder now, and the guy's huge. But in the early 2000s, this guy was I just would not let Bo Torbert beat me. And if he was going to beat me, it had to be with if we were up 3 or 4 runs.
Where did he play?
He played for Sioux Falls, the Sioux Falls
Gotcha.
Canaries. His number's retired there at that stadium. I went back there this year and saw that they retired his number, along with the name right next to him is Patrick Mahomes,
Wow.
Senior. Patrick Mahomes Senior's number's retired in that ballpark too.
Was Bill Murray involved with Sioux Falls, or am I misremembering that?
Bill Murray was involved with the St. Paul Saints.
St. Paul Saints. I'm sorry.
He made a very, very good investment right there when he got involved with them. That is the most successful independent league, and they are no longer independent league. They're AAA now, and they've been independent league from 1993 until this season. And St. Paul was an incredible, incredible place. Probably the most incredible place in the minor leagues I ever played. And
Really?
It was an independent league club. We would show up at the ballpark at 2:30, and there would be 10,000 fans tailgating before every game in Old Midway Stadium. It was a dump of a stadium.
Incredible.
They literally outdrew the Minnesota Twins 2 years in two of their years in existence. They actually outdrew the Minnesota Twins.
That is crazy.
And Minnesota's the Metrodome, when they still had the Metrodome, was one of the reasons they did it too, because they loved outdoor baseball. They did not want to go indoors and watch baseball, so they would all flock to Midway Stadium and watch the St. Paul Saints play. And I mean, I never played in that ballpark where it wasn't a sellout. It was sold out every game I ever set foot in that stadium. It was sold out every night, and it held 12,000 people. So it was a Mike Veck and Bill Murray turned that thing into a gold mine, and Van Sly and Marv Goldklang, they were the ownership group that got that. And Mike Veck was the brains behind all that. Mike Veck, famous for Disco Demolition, Bill Veck's son, who's one of the great promoters in the history of the game. But what a great experience to go. It's the greatest experience I ever had in professional baseball was playing in St. Paul, to be honest
No
with
way.
you. It was
Really?
amazing. It was amazing. It really was. The atmosphere, they just figured it out. They figured out. They did crazy things. They had pigs running across the field. I mean, it was a little bit of a circus type atmosphere. I mean, they had nuns giving massages, people getting haircuts in the stands. Craziness. I loved it because I love Bill Murray.
Right. That sounds very Bill Murray-esque, doesn't it? That kind of thing.
Oh, it is 100% Bill Murray's personality on a baseball field.
Wow.
And Mike Veck and Bill Murray are very much alike. And they just have crazy. No, Bill Murray is literally crazier off the screen than he is on the screen. He really is. But when I say crazy, I'm not talking like crazy straight jacket crazy or violent crazy. I'm talking just unique. I mean,
good crazy.
I remember he tried to run me over in a golf cart when I was shagging flies because I had a home run the day before to beat him.
No way.
Beat us tonight, Beauchamp, you asshole.
No.
I mean, he seriously bearing down on me with that golf cart going full speed. I had to freaking dive out of the way.
No way.
Practice.
That's
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah. Oh, I mean, the guy will show up. The guy will, he'll be in Austin, Texas, and here, there's a frat party going on. He'll just walk into the frat party and start doing dishes. And just wait till people do. I mean, he does stuff like that all
hilarious.
the time. It's great. It's great. And he's just he's a good person too, man. He never I use the term big leaguing. Some guys will get to the big leagues and you'll never hear from them again, and you were best friends with them when you were in the minor leagues, and they just forget.
They kind of
who
go
you
Hollywood on you, that sort of thing.
They go Hollywood, exactly. Bill Murray's never gone Hollywood, man. I think that's one of the best compliments you can give a human being.
Sure, especially someone as successful as he's been over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and he's an honest guy. And he's himself, and he gives two pisses what anybody thinks about it. That's I love that in a person. I consider myself that way a little bit. I'm gonna be me, man. I'm not gonna be somebody else. I'm gonna be me. There's only one me. And I'm going to be me, right or wrong. I'm going to do what I think is right based on my value system. And if you don't like it, kiss my rear, And cancel culture, bring it on.
No, it's good.
Guys,
more people need to be that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The right has got to do a better job of fighting for what is right.
Mm-hmm.
Fight, not stand there. I'm going to be quiet because I might hurt somebody. Screw that. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong.
Right.
It's that simple.
Enough already, right?
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, it's real simple. Follow the Constitution and follow the Bible, and good things will happen to you. It ain't rocket science.
Right. Now, going back to Bill Murray, you're talking about something so noble. Follow the Bible, follow the Constitution. Yeah, let's talk about Bill Murray.
Well, those are my values. I can't speak for other people.
No. We're 100% on board with you on that, brother. And no, I don't want to make any mistake about it. I just don't want to lose the train of thought. I wanted to flesh that out before we finish. Excellent point.
You got to keep me on the right line, brother.
Hey,
I might start talking about election fraud or something.
Right.
Arfador.
Yeah. I want to know about, because we were talking about that purge of baseball men, and I want to know a little bit more about that. Do you think a guy like a Bill Murray is he a good baseball guy, like somebody who's good for the game, somebody who would keep the game to where it should be?
I think Bill Murray loves the game of baseball about as much as he loves anything. I really do. He is an owner. He owns multiple minor leagues, and he likes. You know what? Bill Murray could own a major league club if he wanted to.
Right.
Why is Bill Murray owning all these minor league teams when he could own a major league club? Think about it. because it's pure. It's a pure game at the lower levels. Independent baseball is the last vestige of pure baseball. And I'm not speaking for Bill Murray, but I just believe that he chose to be a part of something like the St. Paul Saints because it brought him back to the way baseball used to be. I'm going to tell you something. In my opinion, and I'm a baseball man, I'm a field rat, I'm a cage rat. I like to be in the cage. I like to be hitting ground balls. I like to work with hitters, and that's what I truly love the most about the game. You know, managing the game was part of my job, but I like my relationship with my players now more than anything, because I can see that the players appreciate what I have to give them. And you know what? Where in the older days, I might come to them in a forceful way. I let them come to me now. I always offer it because you got to be real careful with players mentally in this day and age. You know, baseball is a physical sport, and it takes physical tools to play the game. But your mental approach and your physical approach have to be balanced for you to be as good as you can be. And so I really became cognizant in the last 10 years of my players' mental well-being. They all have physical ability, or they wouldn't be professional baseball players.
Right.
All right. So what's keeping these guys from getting where they're getting? Well, it could be injury. But for the most part, they're struggling mentally with something. And so I try to balance out the physical approach and the mental approach to the game, because I know this: I was never as good as I was going to be. Now, I had physical tools, and that's why I got drafted in the first round, but I had zero mental approach when I was young. I had zero mental discipline. I had zero mental approach. I just got up there and looked for a fastball and tried to knock the crap out of it every time I went to the plate. And there's more to hitting than that. There's working counts. There's having a scouting report. And when I started learning these things little by little over the years, and it's a shame, but when I was 29 years old is when I was the best. I hit 376 that year between 3 different levels, and it's because I had a mental approach that matched the physical tools that I had left. If I'd have had that same mental approach when I was 20, 21 years old, I felt like I could have probably been in the big leagues by the time I was 23.
Wow.
But I had some lessons to learn. And so once I learned that, and I do a whole hitting lesson called the mental approach to hitting. And it's about an hour long, and it's where we don't even pick up a bat that day with my younger hitters. And if these guys are kids that I think want to play college baseball or play at the next level beyond high school, we will have that lesson. And it is honestly the best lesson, because what I did is I took 10 years, what took me 10 years to figure out as a hitter. Okay. It took me 10 years to figure out the mental approach. I can teach it in an hour. What took me 10 years to learn, I can teach it in an hour. Now, I make them take notes because I give them a lot of information in that hour. So you need to keep those notes with you for the rest of your career. And I still have players today that still have those notes, I've been doing this for 15, 20 years now, teaching this mental aspect of the game. So I started paying a lot more attention. That's where I've kind of changed as a manager, and not being this, rah, fire everybody up, hard ass, Army type drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket type of, that movie Full Metal Jacket. Arlie Ermey's the DI, the gunnery sergeant,
right,
that whips those guys into shape. I mean, that used to work. That worked. It worked. It worked for me, but it does not work in this generation. So the players, the purge that you talk about, Mike, to me is what was an analytical purge, and they started bringing analytical people in, and they started getting rid of the old school baseball guys, and that's a mistake. There's got to be a balance. There is a place for analytics in baseball. There's no doubt about it. There is a place, but there's also a place for old school baseball men that can teach. That can teach. A lot of these analytical coaches, man, that are in uniform, they've never had to hit a slider 0-2.
Right.
or look for a slider 0-2 and a two-seamer get away from a guy and it almost hits you in the face because you're leaning out over the plate. And they've never had to deal with the mental train wreck that can cause. It happened to me. Everything that I teach, positively is probably because something negatively happened in my career that I learned from. And that's, and I have had to adapt. The word is adapt. We've had the old school baseball guys like me have had to adapt and to me balance the old school with the new school mentality.
So
there's a place for both still in the game, in my opinion.
But when you're talking about the guys who are straight analytics, these are guys who never played the game.
Well, there's a lot of guys, and I can't say if there's a lot of players that have gone the analytical route to like there's a young player that I coached the last 2 years, and actually I signed him to the Diamondbacks organization. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant player. He knows analytics. He knows he's borderline mathematician. And when I hear him talk about hitting, it's almost like a foreign language to me.
Wow.
So if you got a guy like him and you got a guy like me, you got the best of both worlds there.
Right.
And that's where baseball needs to go. Baseball needs to go that, you need to have your analytical guys on the staff, but you also need to have the guys that can pull a guy in the office and tell him what he is doing wrong from a mental standpoint, not just a physical analytical standpoint. You know what I mean? It's like your mental approach is jacked up here, bro. You just went up to a plate against a guy throwing 70% changeups, and you're looking for fastballs that you are not going to get. You're not going to get. You've got to set on a changeup off this guy and not miss it. When you get it, because you are going to get it. And a changeup's way easier to hit than a 95-mile-an-hour fastball if you're looking for it. So that, and I don't think a lot of the analytical guys grasp that part of it.
Well, yeah, you're going to miss things if you haven't been involved in the game from that perspective. It's almost like you have these corporations who will bring somebody in and they'll say, okay, I know exactly how to fix this based on numbers and everything like that, but they've never been out in the field and actually done these jobs, so they miss all of these practical problems that somebody who's been in the positions, been in the field, will recognize right away.
and then, yes, I agree 100%, because a lot of times what these people are doing that are coming into these companies is they're teaching everybody the same thing. Well, maybe this guy maybe needs this, and this guy needs this over here. You know what I mean? They're teaching and this is very similar to analytics in baseball,
right?
Because they're teaching pure formulated analytics, okay? But baseball is way beyond pure formulated analytics, okay? You got to understand when a guy shows up at the ballpark. I always wanted my office close to the front door. I wanted to see guys when they walked into the ballpark. I wanted to look at their body language. Hey, their wife may have asked them for a divorce the night before because she was sick of baseball. That's a guy that does not need to be on the field that day.
Right.
And if you're attentive and you pay attention to your players and their body language, and you may grab a guy and call him in the office and say, "Hey, brother, you all right today? Can I help you with anything?" Man, you're not going to believe this, but my girlfriend...
But Cash, you don't understand. His wins above replacement.
What does that mean?
Hey,
it's
one of those stats
that to me. I cannot tell you what wins above replacement means.
What does that mean?
That. And I may get fired because of that. But I don't care. My job is not to worry about wins above replacement. My job is to evaluate, and when I'm coaching, to get players to perform in the best of my ability. If I want a guy to talk to him about wins above replacement, I'll get the analytical guy over here, and I'll have him talk to him about that. I'm not qualified to talk about that. And personally, I know what OPS is. I know what that stuff is. Okay.
Right.
I know, but some of these analytics are so deep, and it doesn't even make sense to me. My job is to get a guy to play the best he can play from a mental and physical standpoint. And I think my 40 years of baseball has qualified me to do that. Now, if you got an analytical guy that can come help me do my job, let's go. Bring him on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think analytics are great for breaking ties when you can't make up your mind what guy you want to be your AAA shortstop if there's a tie.
Right.
Maybe we go to the analytics now and see who's got the best numbers there in that situation.
Sure.
But that's not the end all be all to the game. Just analytics is a tool to help, and I'm all for using any tool I can get to help. But I'll let the analytical guys do the analytical stuff, and I'll stick to my old school mentality that I've learned, from being in the game for 40 years. Actually, my whole life, because I grew up in a locker room. So I was a professional bat boy. I was a professional bat boy for 16 years before I became a player. Not
Wow.
16 years, probably about, when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, I started bat boying until I graduated. So that was 8 years. I was learning the professional game, for 8 years before I even became a professional, because I was blessed enough to be around my dad.
Sure.
And my dad would bring me with him, in the summer. So, and to learn that stuff. So, I'm not anti-technology. I'm not great at technology. Video, I would give my left arm to have the video capabilities. I think I could have hit 20 points higher if I had video.
Right.
I've only got about 10 of my career at bats on video that I can even look at. And some of them I'm going, God, I swung like that? It's weird. What you feel in the batter's box and what you do is two different things.
Sure.
A lot of times. And so,
Sure.
that's something I don't think an analytical guy understands, is what a guy feels like in the batter's box. Then he sees himself, it's like, man, I didn't even know I did that.
Right.
That's part of my swing, and I didn't even know I did that. That just happened naturally. Or, man, I got to be – look, my backside's shutting down here. I mean, I never had video. It was all feeling. I learned the game all through feel, because we never had technology or video to go look at. Sometimes you'd see yourself on the news every now and then. That's the only video we had.
Sure.
So video,
you're not going to sit there and analyze it
video.
frame by frame and see, where my hips are at this stage and where my hands at this stage. Am I dropping my back shoulder or anything like that? You're not going to be able to catch that from the news, right?
Yeah.
Man, I got an app on my phone that can slow things down, can go forward, backwards, you can go
Sure.
side by side. I love it. I love it, man, when I need it. I need it sometimes. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can do it just with talking to a dude.
But here's what it sounds like to me, Kash. It sounds like there have been certain advances in the game that are good. They've just been taken too far. So, for example, maybe it's not a bad thing that you've learned over the years that it might work a little better to treat different players differently and to approach them in a little bit of a different way. Maybe one guy responds well to something as opposed to another guy. Maybe it's not such a bad thing that we've got videotape. That's a good thing, but they take that too far. Maybe it's not so bad that we've got these statistics we're looking into, but they're making that the be all end all. Are people just taking things too far in these aspects?
Yes, they've lost their balance. They've lost the balance. You know what I mean? It's right now, baseball is way analytical. It's way political. Okay.
Right.
Right.
It's analytical and political to the max right now. That, or more than, if it gets any more political, I'm quitting. I can't take it. I will not. Look, I hate to say this, but there are times when I am embarrassed to be associated with a major league club. I'm sorry. And there are times when I read stuff on social media that I totally blatantly disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, and it's political, man. It's political stuff.
Russ,
and
what did you say before we got on the air about professional sports? Are you there, Russ? Russ is
Wake up, Russ.
Yeah. We got to wake Russ. What did you say about professional sports before we got on the air? Yeah, but what did you think that they were known as now from now on? Oh, this guy. I try to give him credit. I could have just stolen the line. I
There you
could have
go.
just stolen
Now
the
you can just
line and
take it,
used it
Mike.
on the air. So Russ is talking. This is why you guys can't talk before we go on the air. But you got to save it for the air. But Cash is talking about professional sports, and Russ says, "Oh, there's still such thing as professional sports. I thought those were just televised protests. I thought it was televised political protests. That's what's
Right.
going on. That's right, Cash."
You know what? And I will say this about baseball with the kneeling aspect of it, which I'm 100% against. I mean,
Mm.
come on, man. I mean, I feel like Biden now. Come on, man.
Come on,
Come on,
man.
man.
Come on, man.
But it's that's not the avenue, man. If I was a manager and I'm building an independent league baseball club, which I've done multiple times in my life. That's why I love indie ball, because I'm not only the field manager, I'm the general manager, and I'm the scouting director.
Right.
And it's a great. That's why I love independent baseball. You get to wear multiple hats. And honestly, what's wrong with independent baseball is a lot of the general managers whose jobs are to sell tickets and to make sure that the San Diego Chicken or Max Packin or whoever the mascot is coming that day is there on time. These independently general managers all think they're Theo Epstein now. They all want to be involved with the baseball stuff. So you got some dudes that spent their whole life trying to tell a guy like Butch Hobson what to do with his roster. That guy's not qualified to even speak to Butch Hobson about baseball. Who's managing in a place, So that's something that gives me a little bit of the red ass. Is people that are unqualified trying to bully their way into the player part of the deal. They're not qualified. It would be like me trying to go out and to sell break a world record for season tickets. I'm not a season ticket salesman. That's not my ability. I'm not a businessman. I'm a baseball man. So I stay in my lane. And people are trying to get out of it because baseball's sexy. Being in player procurement, it's sexy. You can have a beer with your buddies and say, "Yeah, I told that manager to release the piss out of this guy yesterday, and he had to, because I got power over him." Well, the guy wants the manager may want to cash his next paycheck, and he's got to make a living for his family.
Right.
So when I see something, I would never work in a situation like that. I would never. I don't care how bad I needed a job. I would never take a job where a general manager, unless the general manager was a guy that I respect as a baseball man, because I know he's been in the game of baseball and he understands it. I'm not going to work under those circumstances. But a lot of these independent league managers have to work under these circumstances, and I don't think that's right.
Right.
So it's I don't know.
Now, you've also got these guys coming in these days trying to change the mechanics who have never played the game, right? They come in and they've got these new methods for mechanics and teaching all these crazy drills and everything like that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Cash?
The word that I use that I'm very wary of is when I use the word cloning. Okay, cloning. A baseball player is like your thumbprint. We all have a thumbprint, but everybody's is uniquely different. Hitters we're all trying to achieve the same thing, but everybody is uniquely different from body type, from bat speed. One thing that analytics does not take into consideration with hitting, and it's the number one thing, tied. There's two things with hitting that I will go to my grave saying these are the two most important things in hitting, is loading on time and loading right, loading your swing. Okay, and that's getting started, getting to a good, strong hitting position in time. Analytics never seems to cover that. They always talk about the swing. Let me tell you something. Every player that's drafted by a major league organization has a good damn swing. Okay?
Right.
Or he doesn't get drafted. And then they start messing with these guys right after they get drafted and changing things. Well, why did you draft the guy in the first round? You know, we had an incident when I was one of the organizations that I coached with that's no longer in existence. They're now the Washington Nationals, the Montreal Expos. They had a first-round draft pick that had a high leg lift, and we gave him a lot of money. The first thing they did is take away that kid's high leg lift, okay? Now, I am not a fan of leg lifts and prep steps, but if you can manage that movement and it doesn't get you in trouble, heck yeah, you can hit with a leg lift. Heck yeah, you can hit with a prep step. That's a back step before you go forward. But it's an extra movement that you really don't need that if it's not managed can get you in trouble. So they took this kid and they immediately took the leg. We don't like the leg lift. Well, this kid hit good enough his whole life to be a first-round draft pick. And now you're going to immediately take away his leg lift. It put him in a mental slump that he never was able to get out of. And we
Really?
lost. He was done. He was done.
That's a good point.
He never that we tried to bring his leg lift back and he couldn't do it because he
Messed him up.
That's what can happen if you start messing with guys too much. And it's pitching mechanics, it's hitting him. If I got a saying that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
Hunter Pence, somebody was smart. Do you guys know who Hunter Pence is?
Of course. Yeah. Very unorthodox looking guy, right?
He's the biggest, the term in the scouting world is called a stiff.
Yeah.
He's a stiff. That means he's robotic and he doesn't flow and he's not fluid.
Right.
Well, guess what? Hunter Pence was the biggest stiff that ever played the game, but his strength, his physical strength and his hand-eye coordination and fast twitch muscles offset his stiffness. So he was a productive major league player, being an unorthodox, you know who he is, Mike. I mean, the guy doesn't do. You look at his on-deck swings and you want to throw up. It looks like, what is this guy doing?
I can see it in my head. I can see it in my head. Yeah.
Oh, it is. The scouting report that was written on him, the way he ran was 2 tennis shoes and a dryer. Is the way he runs. But guess what? He's extremely fast, even though he runs like 2 tennis shoes and a dryer. You know, he swings like the Tin Man before he was oiled in The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
I mean, those are,
Well, I can even picture him throwing from the outfield, right? Like,
he throws like his elbow is glued to his ribs. These are some of the things that scouts say about him. And it's hilarious to read it, but guess what? Somebody was smart enough to leave him alone and let him be a major league all-star.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's common
very
sense.
successful
That's
career.
another thing missing. That's another thing missing in the world is common sense. With masks, with vaccines.
Right.
There's no common sense, man.
Exactly.
There's none. And everybody, I might be the Hunter Pence when it comes to the vaccine, where maybe I don't need to be smooth and fluid. You know? Common sense, man. Common sense has left us. What's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. And what I'm seeing a lot of is analytics trying to make everybody swing with the exact same angle, this and that.
Right, yeah.
You
Talk
know?
about that. I mean, they got these guys out there with the PVC pipes and everything like that. They're doing
That's
these.
garbage. I mean, honestly, unless you're hitting sunflower seeds with a PVC pipe, I can maybe see that because that's hard to do.
Yeah.
I believe in making practice tougher than the game any chance I get.
Yeah.
Because that slows the game down. You know, I used to play stickball all the time with a broomstick, and I swear that's where I learned how to hit. When I was in New York when my dad was with the Mets, there was a guy named Nick Vitalo that picked me up every day and took me to Southside High School, and he was about 3 years older than me, and we played 2 hours of stickball a day, and this guy could bring it. He was 16, and I was like 13.
Were you using one of those little blue handballs?
The pinky ball. The
pinky balls? Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we used the pinky ones, but we also could use the handball. We used one tennis. If we couldn't get a pinky ball, we used a tennis ball.
Tennis ball.
We figured it out, man.
Yeah.
And we played. We didn't go wear our thumbs out on the PlayStation.
Right.
We actually played games of baseball or stickball or things that were going to improve us as an athlete. And he's a big reason why I got drafted, because 3 hours a day, every day. We're out there grinding stickball, but it was a blast. It was a blast, and I got better. I mean, he threw sliders, he threw curveballs, he threw changeups, he threw knuckleballs. And, these were the pitches that I was going to see when I became a professional.
Sure.
And that ball, and wiffle ball, if you can hit a wiffle ball, a guy that has a good slider with a wiffle ball, if you can get that, a slider with a baseball is easy.
Right, absolutely.
The kids don't do that anymore. They play MLB 2021 for hours, and maybe you can learn a little strategy doing that, but you're not going to get better as a player doing that.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's a lot that's changed today too with the game, and the travel ball mentality is ruining the game of baseball. So it's the trophy chasing mentality of trying to win a ring at some rinky-dink kid tournament. Like that means something. That ring doesn't mean jack diddly squat until you start getting paid to play. Then it's going to mean something.
Sure.
So
college ring's not bad to have, right?
No, college baseball. I take that back. Yeah, I'm talking about travel ball. These kids don't even practice anymore. They just go play in these elite tournaments. And so baseball players right now are fundamentally bankrupt because nobody's teaching them fundamentals at a young age. It's all about winning tournaments, no practice, show up at the tournament, play your 10 games, and do it again next week. When are you going to learn cutoffs and relays? When are you going to learn how to teach a pitcher that he is not the cutoff man on a base hit to center field with a runner on second, like I see in every travel ball tournament in the world? These kids don't even know where to go on the field.
The pitcher being the cutoff, is that what you said?
Oh, I see it all the time, bro. There's a runner on second, base hit up the middle. The first baseman doesn't know where he's going, and the pitcher's the cutoff man. Well, the pitcher's supposed to be backing up. The first baseman's the cutoff.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Who's backing up?
Yeah. Well, you know that because guess what? Did you learn some fundamentals in your career?
Sure.
When did you learn that? When did you learn that the pitcher backs up home? Tell me how old you were.
I was pretty young because that's what we did. We spent a lot of time working on fundamentals when I was growing up. We didn't play in these tournaments or anything like that.
Give me an age when you learned that when you're a pitcher and there's a base hit with a runner on second that you back up home plate. When did you learn that? Give me an age. I don't care if you're off a year or two.
Yeah, 9 years old, 10 years old.
9 years old.
Right.
I'm seeing high school players, and I see college teams that are fundamentally bankrupt. I see outfielders make 3 throws with 3 different types of footwork from the outfield. There's only one footwork that works for each player, and he needs to do it, be consistent with it every time. I see pro outfielders throw from the outfield with 3 different styles of footwork and 3 different balls hit to them. That never happened. We were taught footwork.
Yeah, that's
going to
be a problem.
We were taught cutoffs and relays. We were taught where to go on the baseball field when cutoffs and relays, butt defenses, first and third defenses. These kids in high school don't know a first and third. These kids, they're playing travel ball, don't know a butt defense from a squeeze play.
Wow.
It's look, I can't tell you how many times I see travel ball tournament games and the pitcher is the cutoff man on a base hit. And the coaches don't say one word because they
that's another thing though, because you say how old were you? I mean, I can't imagine having played at 10 or 11 and not backing up home plate and not getting chewed out. Certainly not in high school. Certainly high school. Like freshman year in high school, if I had not backed up, what would happen? Because I can remember it. Yeah. Forget it.
Did you ever have to run for punishment?
Absolutely, constantly.
In college.
Constantly.
In college.
Constantly.
In professional baseball, one day we screwed up a bunt defense, and my man Dennis Holmberg, I'm going to go back to him again. It's a great story. We screwed up a bunt defense. I a guy made a wrong read. We have a read play where the third baseman, if the ball is bunted toward the pitcher, he goes back to third base. The pitcher fields it, throws to third, and we get the force out. So it's a read play. It's a standard bunt defense in professional baseball that's used. The third baseman, if there's an imaginary line, if the ball's on that side of the line and it's a good bunt, the third baseman has to come get that ball. So he's got a decision to make. With the balls, if he thinks that the pitcher can field it, he goes back to third. If he thinks the pitcher can't field it, he comes and gets the ball and gets the out at first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's with runners on first and second. Okay, so Dennis Holmberg, our manager, we screwed that play up, and our bus broke down at 3 a.m. And this is when we still had beer on the bus. Half the dudes were lit up, and while the bus was broken down in this grocery store parking lot, he got everybody's butt off the bus at 3 a.m. And guess what we did? We did bunt defenses.
Wow.
At 3 a.m., half hammered, half in the bag.
Yeah.
And guess what? We never screwed another bunt defense up the rest of that year.
Sure.
It was taken care of then, that day at 3 a.m. in a grocery store parking lot with our hats as bases. Okay? That's the way baseball needs to be taught.
Right.
If you did that nowadays, Dennis Holmberg would probably get fired.
That's crazy.
If he did that to a, well, you had my first rounder out there doing a bunt defense at 3 a.m. That's what an agent would call and say.
It's
You
crazy.
need to fire this guy. The guy just taught us all the best lesson he could ever teach us. And some agents probably nowadays going to call up and bitch about his first rounder having to be out there at 3 a.m.
Right.
If you don't like it, play better.
Right. That's a good point there. But that seems to be the pattern, is that they find a little bit of a chink in the armor and they take it too far.
Let me tell you this on that note, Mike. When I am giving hitting lessons in Joplin, Missouri, and I'm speaking to the pitching coach there, and he tells me that they are not allowed to discipline their players, I almost threw up in the floor. They can't run them. They can't yell at them. This is a college baseball team, Mike.
Are you kidding?
Name. I'll give you the name because it ain't coming from the coaches. Because I know the coaches. It's coming from the damned administration that is so soft and I don't even know what other word to call it, other than they are so soft and so worried about getting sued and political correctness that a guy could literally go out, get drunk, show up at the ballpark drunk the next day, and those coaches can't do a dadgum thing about it.
Yeah, it's another example of going too far. I'm sure you've played on clubs or you've heard of situations where a coach went a little too far, or maybe sometimes a lot too far. Say, hey, that's inappropriate. Doing that kind of stuff, that's not right. But what happens is they use that as an excuse to get rid of the culture of the game, to get rid of all the things that were good about the game. Say, now you can't run or yell at all.
It's part of the collegiate leftist brainwashing campaign that I'm seeing going on universities. It's sort of softening and degenderizing people and whatever the insanity, the mental illness that is going on college campuses right now with certain professors that lean way to the left that are trying to brainwash students.
Oh, I'm Marxist,
into
right?
being it's a sickness. It's a mental illness. It's disgusting. I think a lot of colleges, some of these colleges are the biggest rackets in America.
Sure.
And they're just stealing money. I mean, you want to know somebody that I respect? And I listen, man, I respect people that have a college degree. And I respect that. But at what expense? At
Right.
what expense now where we're at with some of these
Sure.
colleges? They're mentally ill, man. It's mental illness is what it is. And these people are coming out thinking that, once again, I'll go back to, like we talked about last time, when we had our discussion about, critical race or race, racism in baseball, the critical race theory stuff is insanity. It's pure insanity. That is racism at its highest level right there.
Yeah.
And they're trying to whitewash it, no pun intended. They're trying to whitewash it through whatever their justification for. Look, aren't we beyond the color of our skin pigment by now?
You would think so. His pastor did a very excellent sermon about this. His name is Vadi Bacham. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he came out here to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and did a sermon about critical race theory. And really going back to what you talked about, you find your principles in the Bible and the Constitution. It's a very simple game plan there, right?
This stuff was settled in the 60s, bro. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. I always thought Malcolm X was some type of militant, and he might have been on certain aspects. But boy, that guy said a lot of truth, man. When it talks about liberal and conservative, I mean, he called it out.
Right.
He was dead like 2 weeks later. Okay.
Right.
He was dead 2 weeks later.
True.
He called it out. There are several quotes. All you got to do is look at some of his quotes where he's talking about how tokenism,
right?
About the black man being a token for the white liberal. It rings true today. I'm sorry, but it rings true today. And look, and we're not talking every black person or every white person, but man, we got to get beyond skin pigment, man. This is 2021. I'm tired of it.
Yeah,
Judge every man by the content of his character, not the color of his skin. It's that dadgum simple. It worked in the 60s. Another man gave his life up for that. These men, we got conservatives, so-called conservatives, that are afraid to stand up and fight and say things. And we got Major League Baseball players that have a belief system that are afraid to share that because they're afraid. They're scared. You know, they need to think about what Martin Luther King and Malcolm X did. They gave up their lives for what they believed in.
Right.
You know, and I'm with them. I'm with them 100%, both of those guys.
Well, last time you were on, you talked about your relationship with Cecil Fielder in the minor leagues, right?
Look, man, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
He grew up in Watts. He grew up in Watts, right outside of Watts in California.
Mm-hmm.
In a majority African American community. I grew up in a lily white. There's not one. There is now that lives in my community, my little town in Oklahoma that I grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
And there was not one African American person. We have a major the major minority is Native Americans. We're in the middle of the Cherokee Nation.
Sure.
And my fiance is a card-carrying Cherokee.
Mm.
But I learned Native Americans, they were the minority in my town, but they weren't a minority. They were just another person.
Right.
They're just another dude. You know, I didn't grow up like that, man.
Sure.
The civil rights stuff was already over when I was growing up. Now, there's racism in everything, everywhere. I mean, racism has been around since the beginning of time. It'll always be there. But the racist is what we're trying to get rid of.
That's right.
I'm a conservative. Okay, I lean to the right, but I am not a racist. And in my relationship with Cecil Fielder proves that you can take two kids from away. Somebody should have done a college experiment on us rooming together for 3 years.
Right.
And the world would be a better place if they would have studied our relationship and learned from it. And to this day, he's one of my brothers, man.
I want to ask you about this. I want to kind of dovetail into a different topic. I appreciate how much time you've spent with us already. We're having a whole lot of fun. Hope you are as well. But there's something else that I really wanted to discuss with you, and it kind of can stem from your time in the minor leagues with Cecil. You know, the living conditions in minor league baseball, what guys are paid, and the way they've got to live. I wrote an article about this, uh, dealing with minor league baseball, the Fair Labor Standards Act, while I was in law school, and I wrote it from the perspective of Crash Davis Jr. is what I called him, a lifelong minor leaguer setting records down there, and used the real life experiences from minor league ball players doing interviews and things of that nature to support the legal analysis that I was making within that article. Now, I don't think that
Right.
people realize how exactly guys live when they're in the minor leagues, and maybe it would be great if we could fix that and we could improve upon some of that. But there's a lot in between horrible living conditions and
Yes.
being soft, isn't there?
I lived horribly in the minor leagues, horribly. But guess what? Greatest time of my life. I
Really?
lived, Cecil Fielder and I literally lived in a trailer in Kinston, North Carolina. That when if both of us walked to one side of the trailer, it was like a seesaw. It would like tilt back and forth. Okay. If we did not stand on the carpet and opened our refrigerator, it would shock us. Okay. It has sword in it. It would shock us. We had ants. We had ants coming through our trailer. I mean, this trailer was in a trailer park, and as bad a trailer park as you can think of. And that's how we lived. But guess what? We never bitched one time about it.
Really?
We loved our life. We played spades every night. We drank beer and played spade cards every night and talked about the game every
Wow.
night. Honestly, I think if you talk to Cecil, he will go back and tell you that we can't. I mean, Cecil at one point had the biggest house in the state of Florida. He had
Wow.
he had
Nice.
he had a mansion in Florida that they lost Prince in one day and couldn't find him for like 5 hours.
No
He fell
way.
asleep under his bed, and the house was so big they couldn't
I want to
find
hear
him.
more about that.
And so he's gone from the little outhouse to the penthouse. But I think if you talk to Cecil Fielder right now, and you go back and talk about us rooming together in Kinston, North Carolina, those are some of the best times of our life, man. And we lived in the hovel, man. It was horrible, and it was terrible. But guess what? We didn't gripe. You know how much I made my first year of pro baseball a month?
That's what I was going to ask.
Take a guess.
Oh, you got
A
guys.
month.
What's that?
I made this much money a month my first year of professional baseball.
Well, yeah. Well, you hear guys making like 800 a month when I was playing, which is
Yeah,
obviously
it was 600
ridiculous.
then.
600.
So it didn't go up that much.
Yeah.
When you it does not go up like the cost of living goes up.
Right.
And right now, these players that are playing in California, they have to live in hotels. They can't afford an apartment. At least we got to stay in an apartment. We had to room with people. But and then when you get to AA and AAA and you're on the 40-man roster, now you can start making a little money and you get your own place.
Sure.
But guess what? That gave us something to work toward as well. To work my way out of the hood and the hovel of living in trailer parks and try to get my own dadgum apartment by the time, when I get to AAA, I'll have my own apartment. Because I'll make, I'll make $1,700 a month then. The most I ever made in my life was $6,000 a month, and I was a 6-year free agent. And that was in 94, but I never even made close to that much money. That's when I was a free agent, and I was signed by another organization. So that's the most I ever made in my life playing baseball per month.
Do you think people understand that? Like the regular person who's watching, who goes to those ball games, do you think they realize how little the players are making?
No, I don't think they have any clue, really. Now, there's an article in The Athletic that I read. It's a magazine, and it talks about the living conditions. But man, I'm going to tell you something. The guys today, they may live in some rough conditions, but they didn't live like. I don't mean to sound like the guy that walked 4 miles to school barefooted.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. I was a first overall draft pick. I got $65,000 to sign. The first overall draft picks now will get at one point they were getting $10-12 million to sign.
Wow.
Okay. So I don't really feel sorry for a guy that's a first, second, or third round pick that's griping about his living conditions when he got enough in his bonus to live in a house all summer. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there are guys that are lower level guys that they have it rough still in the minor league. They really do. There's an article in The Athletic that talks about it, which is an online magazine that I've come to find is a really good sports magazine. It's got a lot of good stuff in there. I like it. And I don't work for them and I'm not plugging them, but there's an article in there that if you want to read about what minor league players are going through today, it's about the best article I've ever read on it. It probably has something to do with it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me because I'd rather live in a ditch in a dump and play professional baseball than have a real job. And live in a mansion. That was me. And I know I'm different. I'm a different cat when it comes to that.
But I remember, we would do anything back in those days. Just to have that opportunity, we would do anything. I'll sleep on the floor, done. Right?
I slept on the floor when I got called up to AA one year because I couldn't afford my own place. I slept on an egg crate on the floor. There were 6 players staying in a 2-bedroom apartment in Florence, South Carolina, when I played in Florence, my first full season. And hey, we were black, we were white, we were Latin. We didn't give 2 craps.
Right.
Nobody cared. We all lived together. There wasn't any racial bull crap going on back then.
Mm-hmm.
This racial stuff's being stirred up.
Right.
It's being stirred up. It's a political talking point, and it's a political active. It's disgusting, is what it is. It's disgusting.
Absolutely.
I want to vomit.
Now, Cash, before we cut you loose, because you've been very generous with your time so far.
Too.
Yeah, I know. You have 5 or 10 minutes left?
I got 5 minutes. Sure.
Okay, 5 minutes. So, can you tell us a little bit about what happened this season, and how this season was different as opposed to previous seasons? Can you get into that at all?
Yeah, I can. Sure. As far as the coronavirus,
right,
and politics,
right.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe 10 minutes now, but as quick as I can. Yes. So I will be glad to share an incident that happened with me, and I appreciate you're being very cautious, and you're trying to protect me, and you don't have to. You can ask me any question you want. I'm fearless. I am not afraid of cancel culture. I would like to fist fight the cancel culture. I would like to fight anybody. All you got to do is throw the first punch if you don't like what I'm saying. All you got to do is throw the first punch, and then I'll do what I got to do. Right. But I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm not going to attack anybody. I'm going to respect your political beliefs if you're on the left, okay? But if you come at me, you better bring it. You better bring it. So what happened to me this year, and why I'm no longer a hitting coach with an independent league club, is because there was a day when 3 fully vaccinated players, tested positive for the coronavirus. Let me repeat that. 3 fully vaccinated players who, in my opinion, many of these players were bullied into getting these vaccines. A manager was bullied into getting a vaccine, and I talked to him last night because I was in his ballpark last night. I was in his locker room last night, and he told me the story. He took the vaccine, and 2 days later, he was almost a dead man.
Really?
His heart was beating at 200 beats a minute.
Wow.
They had to stop his heart, restart it. They basically had to kill the guy.
Wow.
By taking this vaccine for this individual. I don't care if you take the vaccine or not. It's your decision. It's your choice. It's your choice. But if I decide I don't want to take it, I don't want to hear any more bull crap that I'm going to give to you if you do take it, which will be 0, because that's your choice. You have to do what's best for you as a person. Okay.
It should be.
So what happened after this manager basically now who was completely healthy, who had never had coronavirus, okay, that he knew of, okay, was never sick at all. He doesn't get sick. I don't get sick. I'm 58 years old. I'm on 0 prescriptions, and I feel great. I can still jump up and touch the rim on a basketball goal, and I'm 58 years old. Okay,
Wow.
so I'm doing something right. Okay, I can still run. I can still, do some things. I can still play basketball one-on-one against my 29-year-old son, my 30-year-old son. I can still beat him about half the time. So now I don't know about lately, in the last couple of years like that, but I'm blessed that I'm healthy. Okay. And I have a great immune system. I've never taken a flu shot in my life. I've never gotten the flu in my life. I'm blessed. I have a great immune system, and I'm blessed. So for me, this does not make sense to me. I've been tested 20-some times for the coronavirus, being in an athletic coaching environment. I've been tested multiple times. I've never tested positive. I've had a what do they call when you get the coronavirus? You have what in your body?
Antibodies.
Antibodies. Yeah. I've had an antibodies test, and it showed I've never had the coronavirus. And I've been exposed to the coronavirus multiple times. Multiple times I've been exposed to it through players that have had it. I've been on buses with them, in locker rooms with them. Honestly, I should have been quarantined for 14 days, right? Isn't that the rules? Do you think they tried to quarantine me? Hell no, because I had the coach. They didn't want to quarantine me. I'm one of the coaches. I got to go to work.
Right.
They didn't quarantine me. I didn't want to be quarantined, even though I was exposed to it. We would not have baseball if we quarantined everybody like we're supposed to. Those 14, because the whole team would be quarantined, and people would lose money. They would lose money, so we can't play, so we can't quarantine everybody. So we're just going to test everybody all the time. That's what they're going to do. Now the vaccine that was last year. Now the vaccine's out. Everybody's getting the vaccine that doesn't seem to work. Okay? Yankee players testing positive, fully vaccinated. 8 players on this one team, fully vaccinated, testing positive. So now the league is going to mandate that I wear a mask on a baseball field in 100-degree weather. Screw that. I'm wearing no mask outside. You can forget it. I will wear a mask when I think I am too close to somebody that's elderly that may have a comorbidity. I will have one around my neck, and I will pull it up. I am not breathing my own CO2 24/7. It ain't going to happen with me, because all the left says is that CO2, these Green New Deal people and these climate change idiots, all they do is say CO2 is killing America. It's killing the world. It's killing the nation. But then they want us to breathe our own CO2 24/7. They want kids to bring their own oxygen.
Oh, that's
and
okay,
wear not-filled masks all day long, but they got a runny nose. These kids can't even blow their own nose.
Right.
They're breathing their snot off. That is freaking cruel and unusual punishment, and it's garbage. And the science, these cloth masks don't work. I've got a brother. I've got a relative. I'm not going to say it's not my brother. I almost slipped and said who it was. I don't want to say who it is. I got a relative that wears 3 masks a day. He's got the worst case of coronavirus of anybody in our family. It's fact. It's fact that I'm saying. And so I'm not wearing that mask. So I left the team because they were going to fine us $500 if we violated the mask policy.
$500? Did you say $500?
The league policy was that if you break the mask policy, the team is fined $500, and every time you break the mask policy, it doubles.
Really?
It goes from 500 to 1,000. And guess what? I was going to cost the owner, who I love dearly, of the team that I work for, I was going to cost him a lot of money. So I graciously bowed out because I was not going to wear the mask. And that's why I left the team, because my owner has dang near gone broke over the last 2 years because we're a Canadian team. We cannot go to Canada and play. They will not allow us across the border. Meanwhile, the southern border is a COVID farm. They've got a COVID farm going down in South Texas. We got one border closed. We got one border wide open, and we're allowing COVID-infested people to come into the country. and kill us. And those that get it, I've been blessed so far. Maybe I'll get COVID, maybe I'll die. Well, guess what? If that's what happens to me, that'll be the way I go out, and I'll go out.
Be your decision, right?
I'll go out
You've made
my
that
own way.
decision.
I've made that decision, and I realize there's a chance that I can catch COVID and die. I believe that if I catch COVID, I will beat it like a cold. I will beat it because I'm in great shape. And my daughter, who's a nurse practitioner, has also said the same thing. And I trust her more than I trust anybody. She was forced to get a vaccine. And I'm going to tell you something right now. If my daughter did not want to get a vaccine, all she did is work her butt off in college and get the job of her dreams. And she's a nurse practitioner, and she was forced to take the vaccine. And I promise you, if something happens to my daughter, whoever forced her to take that vaccine will hear from me in a bad way. Because I will take up for my daughter and my family.
Sure,
and that person better rue the day that I walk into that office if something happens to my daughter. They will rue the day, and I will probably end up in jail, and I get two crap about that. And I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. And the last thing about this is now our baseball team is allowed, all of a sudden, some miracle happens in Canada where they're going to let us across the border.
Oh.
All right? So we're back playing in our town now in Canada, okay? The team is back there. Do you think I'm back there too? Why am I not coaching that team now in Canada? Because we have to take a vaccine to go across the border.
Yeah.
The Canadian government is going to make us. Screw the Canadian government. I'm not taking that shot. It is not for me. I'm not taking it until it is FDA approved and it has been tested. I'm going to be nobody's guinea pig when I've run around for the last 58 years of my life and I've never gotten the flu. And I'm not worried about the COVID virus. I'm worried way more about what happened to this manager I talked to the other night that now has a $65,000 hospital bill.
Wow.
He's got to take 3 medications that probably cost him $800 a month, all because he took the shot. And nobody in the hospital would come out there covering everybody's ass on this deal. It's an ass covering convention, is what it is. The truth is so far from. I've got common sense. Am I a doctor? No, but I watch and I look and I know what politics is. I know what politics are, and I see how this is being politicized. And I will be nobody's political punk. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. Not me.
And the people who forced that guy to get that, are they going to pay for his hospital bills? They're buying, right? It's on them.
Well, it was the league. It was the league, and I will say the league. It was the Pioneer League forced all the man. They didn't force them, but they tried to tell them that we would not hire you as a manager. This is bullying to give people this shot is going on all over the place.
Right. I'm sure your daughter, when she was working as a nurse practitioner during the emergencies of COVID without a vaccine, because there was none, they had no problem, right? They had no problem letting her work unvaccinated.
My daughter has been exposed to COVID virus without a vaccine and has never gotten it. Okay? Maybe she has my immune system. Maybe it's genetic. Okay? She definitely has my athleticism because she's a stud. I'm not saying I was a stud. What I'm saying, she's more of a stud. She's a national championship. She's a state champion and a collegiate national champion in cheerleading. She's a cheerleader.
No way.
Awesome.
And she's won a state championship and a national championship. She was on ESPN they do all the cheerleading stuff on ESPN at Wide World of Sports and Disney. She's been on there. They won the national championship at Columbus State University. So she is an athlete. She's in great shape. She works out. She's a pretty little thing. And I'm going to tell you something.
We got a proud dad. Cash turns proud dad.
I am a proud dad for my sons and my daughters. They are all hardworking, successful members of society. They all have different political views. All of them. One's a libertarian, one's like me, and the other one leans to the left a little bit. But guess what? They're still my kids, and I love them to death, and I let them make their own decisions.
Right.
And all 3 of my kids now, 2 of them chose to get the vaccine. 1 of them was forced. And I'm pissed that she was forced. And if anything happens to her, I will find out who did it, and I will. It'll be the worst day of their life. I will promise you. Whoever the person was that said you have to take this vaccine, they better rue the day that I walk in that damn office. And I don't care. I'll go to jail over it.
Yeah, no.
I will.
I
I will.
understand that. These are real things that people are faced with today.
11. I believe from some of the research that I've done that around 11,000 people have died from these vaccines. From some people that I've talked to in the medical field that will talk to me.
Sure.
Most of them because they know me as a friend. They know me as a friend because I'm trying to get information on what's best for me. You know, they are saying on some stations you need to talk to your doctor. Well, I am talking to doctors about this, and I am educated. It's not just me being a crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theory guy. No, I do my due diligence and research, and I'm looking at what's going on all over the world every day.
Yeah.
And I'm making decisions for myself because I am a free, stinking American. I'm free. I have a constitution. I have a Bill of Rights that protects me, and I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy. You're not going to change the Constitution and Bill of Rights on me. It ain't going to happen.
Right.
I'm going to continue to live like that in the Holy Bible. Those are my go-tos, man. And I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I got common sense. You know, I don't have a doctorate or a master's degree, but I tell you what, I know some people that do that I'm smarter than. I can promise you that. And I'll go up against them with an IQ test too. So,
that's funny.
And I'll go up against anybody. You can take anybody on, Mike, with your IQ. You're the smartest dude I've ever met in my life. You speak Russian.
Thank
you. Freaking speak Russian. You've got. Do you have a doctorate? I know you got a master's.
It's technically it's a Juris Doctor is what it is. Yeah.
Well, you got a law degree from the toughest school in the state of Oklahoma, which is University of Tulsa. The rest of the schools in that state are easy compared to that school. Toughest school in the state.
I mean, you can see by the bar passage rate is pretty high over there. So
it is.
We got
you got to be smart to get in
prepared.
there.
You got to be prepared.
You got to have some money too. That's an expensive ass school, man.
Gonna be a working man, right? Work your way through. Work your way through.
That's right.
Yeah.
Give
a lot of hitting lessons, right? There was a lot of hitting lessons over those 3 years.
You ain't kidding, man. Oh, also, if you don't know, Mike can play the guitar. Like he could probably be on MTV tomorrow. I'm all the way. I play the guitar too, but I ain't as good as he is.
That's funny. We gotta have a jam session for the program one time.
There we go. Now we're talking.
That would be fun. People don't know that Kash also plays guitar. Kash also sings, and we spent a lot of nights playing guitar together out.
Nice.
I love music, man. I love it. I love music, and I one thing my dad forced me to do, and I was really mad at him when he did it because I felt like it was going to take away from my baseball, my athletic career. I mean, I've just ate up with sports my whole life. I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school, and also ran track my freshman year. But so my father made me join the band, the school band.
Okay.
He made me join the band, and I was so PO'd at him. I did not want to be in the band. I did not want to do anything with it. And once I got in there, I started learning a little bit about it, and then I found an instrument that I really enjoyed. I can play the baritone, I can play the trumpet.
Really?
Not very good, but I played it in the band. Yeah, I played the baritone, played the trumpet, and I played the drums. The drum set. Like with the stage band. The drums, because I played the drums on my own. Because I like the drums and I like the guitar, but the guitar is the instrument I really love. And I've got the worst hands in the world for it. I got short, stubby fingers, and my fingers are jacked up from baseball and got arthritis, but I suck it up and do it anyway because I just love it.
I might as well do this now, Kash. You can't see this, but I was gifted.
Oh, look at that! Where'd you get that?
Custom-made cigar box, 3-string guitar.
That's awesome.
Are you serious?
And it's a Padron box too.
Custom made out of a Padron cigar box, one of my favorite cigars. I did tell the maker of the guitar that I would do a little segment on the program, and sort of tell people about it and everything like that. So in case people want to get their own, I'm just showing the audience because it felt very appropriate to bring this up while you were discussing the musical instruments and everything. And I don't know if you could even hear it from the.
Oh yeah, I can hear it.
There we go.
It sounds kind of like a twang. It's twangy. That sounds good, man. That's got a cool tone.
Yeah.
That's a really cool tone. That's kind of a that
Yeah,
would be great on
it's a
like a
cigar
white
box
yokum.
guitar.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Where'd you get
We'll
that?
have to do a bigger
That
segment.
sounds really good in a Dwight Yoakam song.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, funny story, and we could end right after this, but I have to tell this because you bring up Dwight Yoakam. You know how I'm from. I think we talked about the last time we spoke how somebody asked me if there was, and they said, "What are there not very many country stations in New York?" Because I didn't know any of the country songs. No, there are no country stations in New York. There were 0 country stations. So I was out in Texas for the weekend, and
Right.
they were these fights on. So I called up Billy Bob's to see if they were going to be playing the fights because I wanted to find a place to sit and watch the fights.
Billy
So
Bob's in Fort Worth.
in Fort Worth, that's right. Yeah. So
Been
I
there
called.
many times.
Yeah,
One of my
yeah.
favorite places.
Great place. So I was in there. I called them up. I said, "Excuse me, you guys going to be showing the fights tonight?" And the lady says,
Right.
"Sir, Dwight Yoakam is going to be performing here this evening." And I had no idea who that was. So I said, is that a yes or no? Are you guys showing the fights? She was like, "Sir, I just told you Dwight Yoakam is playing here tonight." And I said, "I'm sorry. I'm from out of town. Am I supposed to know who this Dwight Yoakam guy is?"
Did you go see him?
No, I didn't go see. I ended up watching
You
the
should have
fight. So
gone.
I
He's really
know who
good.
it was. I know now. I know he's Country Music Hall of Famer and all, but
Oh yeah,
I
his
didn't know at the
voice
time.
He's got such a unique voice. He's really good. His hero is Buck Owens too, and he loves Buck Owens, so he plays
Really?
a lot of that Bakersfield type music that came from Oklahoma actually, because that's where all the Okies moved to Bakersfield, and there's that's another story. But
Yeah. Well, Cash, I know we got to get you over to the ballpark. We really appreciate how generous you've been with your time this afternoon, and really love hearing from you. And we got to have you back on the program. I guess that's what it comes down to because there's more to say.
Let me just say this on the way out to say goodbye. I'll leave this with you. People have got to start speaking like I'm speaking. All right, you've got to start believing. You've got to start standing up for what you believe in. And one side seems to be doing a pretty good job of it. I'm not going to let those people emasculate me. And I'm not going to let those people make me somebody I'm not. And don't you let them either. All whoever's listening to this, don't let people look. If you're a professional athlete, I refuse to cower to the cancel culture, even if it costs me my job. I am willing to give up I've already left one of my jobs because I stood up for my beliefs. I will live my life as a free American. Okay.
That's awesome.
It's that simple. It's that simple. And when somebody tries to bully me, I will walk. They need me more than I need them. That's the way I look at it. And if you don't want what I'm all about, I don't want to be with you. Okay. And I left that team. I was not forced out of that team. I left that team because I did not want to put undue financial pressure on my owner, who I respect because he has lost probably over $1 million trying to operate a professional baseball team and pay our salaries, and he doesn't have a cent coming in the door because his country won't let us across the border to play,
right?
Because of some pandemic. I don't know what it's real. I don't discount anybody that's been sick from this virus.
Right.
I've been blessed, and God, thank the Lord, I have not gotten it. But I think I haven't gotten it because I've tried to take care of myself through it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I don't. Hey, I went to the gym every day in March and April last year. As soon as that gym opened up, I was there day one. I was not afraid of this virus. I am
That is not a
afraid of it.
suggestion of the government, though, right? That's never part of their suggestion is, oh, get healthy, eat right, work out, take care of yourself. That's never part of the plan, right?
Mhm.
To me, you want to call me a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist? I will put my next paycheck on the dime that this is a man-made Chinese herd-thinning virus. I'll
Wow.
bet anybody any amount of money they want
Yeah.
to bet, and one of these days the truth will come out. And
Right.
I think everybody knows this is a man. My daughter says
Whoa.
it's a man-made virus.
Yeah.
Well, here's the
She
thing
looked
is
at
that
it under a microscope.
if we were talking about this a year ago and we said this, we would be immediately kicked off of YouTube
Mhm.
because
Right.
the narrative was that it came from bats.
Mhm.
And
Right.
I believe we got kicked. We may have gotten kicked off. I mentioned
did.
something about
Well,
it along the
we
way. I
did,
said, "Oh, it just so happens to be in this one
Right.
town, and we can't even mention that there's a lab over there with all
Sure.
this stuff." And now
You know
that's
what?
becoming widely accepted as what took place, is that it
Mhm.
came from that lab. So it just shows how they've been suppressing speech
Yeah.
that is true all this time. And that's got to give us pause as to what we're hesitant to say in the future about other things.
So much for
Doesn't
the
it?
fact
This is a
checkers.
crime
Right?
against humanity, man.
Mhm.
This is
Right.
a crime against humanity, like on the scale of the Holocaust.
Right.
I mean, it literally could end up, having Holocaust type numbers, man, of deaths and whatnot. And I know where it came from. I don't care what the media says. I know where it came from. Bat soup my butt.
Let's end
You gotta
on
be
bat
kidding
soup my butt. What do you
Bat
think?
soup my butt.
All right, that sounds good.
Oh yeah.
It's not the Hershey factory.
Oh, goodness gracious.
That's right. Mhm. It was probably the
That's
U.S.
funny.
military's fault.
That's unreal, man.
Yeah.
I just
Ladies
guys-
and gentlemen, Kash Beauchamp, bat soup my butt. I think we gotta get a T-shirt made up.
Yeah, we
about
need that,
What do you
yeah.
think? T-shirt that says bat soup my butt.
That's a good one.
All right, Kash. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend, a great evening, great time at the ballpark, and we hope to have you back on the program again soon.
All right. God bless you all, and we'll talk soon.
Take care. For those of
All
us
right,
just
bye-bye.
tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So where do we go from here? I think we want to stay on for a little while longer, I think.
Mhm.
What do you guys think?
Sure. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a great guest. I really like just how open he is and honest he is with his own, perspective and thoughts.
Sure.
And that's how we should all be able to be these days. But of course, you get yelled at for that.
Absolutely.
Or suppressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we should definitely have him on again soon. I feel like we could have gone for even longer,
Sure.
right?
Sure. No, he's great.
Yeah,
that.
that vaccine point was really important that he's talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
in
really
this one, the
having to
truth is
quit
being
something.
suppressed. Yeah.
Right. And if you don't want to do something, even though we don't have all the information, he has to quit.
Right.
To
Right.
not get that, to not comply. I mean, that's
Mhm.
pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
different, choosing not to travel, things like that, which I think are still going to be extreme. But for,
Mhm.
Earning your income, it's sad that it's what it's
Mhm.
come to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, another thing is that he's not even saying that he's anti-vax or anything like that.
Right.
He just said he
Yeah.
thinks that you need some more
He
time,
wants more
Mhm.
and that's a
information.
legitimate concern. There's
Yeah.
actually a fighter, Michael Chandler, who's slated to fight in November, and they're looking at Madison Square Garden as the venue. And now de Blasio came out with these new restrictions saying that if you want to, participate in sports, and if you want to go into a stadium or eat in a restaurant or
Mhm.
go to a movie theater, then you have to show proof of vaccination. And he said, I will not be vaccinated by November. because I want to wait and see, sort of
Sure.
thing. He said, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not saying I'm never going to get it. I just, I think I need a little more time to make this decision. And so now if that happens, he's probably not going to be able to fight over there.
Yeah, but
Right.
you know what? That makes me mad because you get slapped with these labels like you're anti-vax because you want more information about
Yeah,
a
sure,
new
of course.
vaccine that's only authorized for emergency use.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense, number one. Number two, gets me fired up because I've had the virus. So I want to wait
Right.
for more
Right.
studies to come out.
How
They're
come they
suppressing.
don't mention? Yeah. How come they don't ever mention that though? How come they don't
But the Cleveland
talk
Clinic.
about natural immunity or
Yeah,
anything?
and
They
several
never do.
doctors have come out saying it's not a good idea to get vaccinated if you
Exactly.
had the vaccine.
Or
If you've
they're
already
saying
had
you're
it.
virus.
as
Yeah.
protected, right?
Right.
There's something with the Cleveland Clinic that just came out, and they're saying that they have changed the recommendations. If
Really?
you've been vaccinated, that you do have some kind of immunity or protection, I'll call it.
And it's better than what the vaccine offers, according to virologists who have openly talked about it. So it makes sense.
I mean, not to be all, my body, my choice, but it literally is ourselves. And
Sure.
like I always say, nobody's going to hold your hand at the end of the day. If they force a vaccine on you and you go home and have a reaction, those doctors, I want to ask them every time somebody says it, are you going to come home and sit with me and make sure I don't have a reaction because I've already had COVID?
Right.
If the answer is yes, then okay, maybe you're going to monitor and take
Researchers from the
medical-
Cleveland Clinic have found that people who've already had COVID-19 may not necessarily benefit from vaccination, according to a new small study.
Right.
They said that people with prior infection had similar protection to those who were fully vaccinated. Researchers are still uncovering how natural immunity compares to immunity from vaccination. Some health experts are recommending that people who have had COVID-19 still get a single dose of vaccine. A single dose? Huh.
Why not the double?
Well, because if you've already had the virus, man, it just shows how the stage of research at this point. Oh, and this article, actually, the check next to it says that it's been fact-checked. Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing that.
Does it
Thank
say
you
who
so much.
fact-checked it?
So now they can't take me down, right?
Well, wait, hang on. Does it say
Yeah.
who fact-checked it? Because the thing is, there were lots of stuff
Oh,
that
it
was
doesn't matter,
fact-checked
Russ.
like
Don't
a
ask those
year
questions.
It
ago.
doesn't matter
Yeah,
who,
yeah. Well, you
as
shouldn't
long
be
as it's
asking
been
that.
fact-checked.
Don't
Yeah,
question the
okay.
fact checkers, Russ. What are you
Well,
what are you
I'm
doing?
going to fact-check everything.
Yeah.
I'm
long
going
as
to
it's been
fact-check
fact-checked.
myself. I'm going to investigate myself like Fauci did.
Cleveland Clinic statement.
is
We
our
recently
fact
shared
checker.
research that provides insight how the immune system protects the body after a confirmed COVID-19 infection. The study followed Cleveland Clinic caregivers over 5 months as the vaccination process was beginning. The data showed that the vaccine was extremely effective in preventing COVID-19 infection. In addition, we found that none of the previously infected employees who remained unvaccinated were reinfected over the duration of the study. Say
Wow.
none?
Say
None?
none? Wow.
We found that none of the previously infected employees who remained unvaccinated were reinfected over
Wow.
the duration of the study.
Wow. That's important right there.
What does none mean?
And
Does that mean zero?
none.
I don't know if that means the same thing as zero, but I think
Yeah,
people
fact check.
people use it interchangeably
Hold on,
enough.
hold on. So I want to know the numbers though, because it says the vaccine was extremely effective. Does extremely effective mean 100% effective?
It sounds very non-scientific, actually.
Well, it can't
Very
be
ambiguous.
100% effective because
Says that
people
they showed
can
that the
get
vaccine was extremely
reinfected.
effective. In addition, we found that none of the previously infected employees who remained unvaccinated were reinfected. Wouldn't they just say the data showed that
If you've had
those who were vaccinated, that none of those who were vaccinated were infected, and because they used none when they talked about the previously infected. I'm just guessing here. I just think maybe it's just worded strange. That's all.
No,
I'll
they're
give them the
trying to
benefit of the doubt.
Everything's worded strange these days.
Yeah.
The information could help guide vaccination efforts should there be a shortage of vaccine supply, and in countries where vaccine supply is limited. This is still a new virus and more research is needed. It is important to keep in mind that this study was conducted in a population that was younger and healthier than the general population. In addition, we do not know how long the immune system will protect itself against reinfection after COVID-19. It is safe to receive the COVID-19 vaccine even if you have previously tested positive, and we recommend all those who are eligible receive it.
How do they know?
I think they do use none and zero interchangeably because I'm looking at the definitions, and basically zero is a numeric value and
Oh, it is?
nothing is considered to be empty or null. And essentially, the way that people talk is kind of different because if I said none of the cars in my driveway are Ford, you would know that that none means zero in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're using it interchangeably, but I don't think they're the same thing all the time.
It's
Russ,
just very wordy.
I was being a total wise guy when I was asking.
Russ actually responded.
You can, well, how stupid do you think I am, Russ?
How much time you got?
Russ is
Well, how
always-
stupid do you think I am? My mic wasn't activated through the whole first
How do
part
you
of the
think I
show.
make it to work in the morning.
I work
Oh,
from
God.
home. It's really easy for me.
That is great.
None of your cars. get
That
you.
is hysterical. Well, thank you, Russ. It's very
Well-
kind of you to be polite about it.
Well, they don't mean the same
I
thing.
thought I was
so-
serious. You handled it very politely instead of being
Oh.
like, "Of
Very
course,
nice,
none
Russ.
means zero, you dummy."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have the chat is still going and flowing, and just the last two comments. CB says, "I'm so over this. Only way this will end is voting Dems all out of office, take the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 2024." And Jeremy says, "Do you think that today's SCOTUS would uphold Jacobson if challenged today if the federal government tried to enforce compulsory vaccinations?"
Yeah, that's something that not a lot of people talk about, and I'm only vaguely familiar with it, so it's not like it's a case that I've studied over and over again, although probably should take a closer look at the opinion
Enforce them.
in and of itself. But yeah, there's forced vaccination. I believe the court upheld the compulsory vaccination in that case, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd have to look at the opinion. And
Which is crazy because it's not even FDA approved and all that. So
yeah, but
Not-
the courts have the courts have certainly frustrated me in a lot of
Mhm.
different cases where they say, "Oh, well, you know, individual liberties are not absolute," that kind of thing. That,
Sure.
From whatever, if I'm being honest, that's
As far as I'm concerned, they're absolute. You know, inalienable, right?
There's just always
Well,
different scenarios. Like I know, I just wanted to say really quick on a side note, a very close family member of mine got a blood test,
Mhm.
and they have COVID antibodies 16 months later.
Okay, that's good to know.
16 months.
Wow.
16 months later.
Well,
Now,
it
I'm not
makes
saying
sense
that's
that then-
everybody.
Well,
Yeah,
it makes
no,
sense
no,
that your,
well,
your
we
body would do a better
We can talk
job.
about facts one at a time. Another thing that I wanted to mention to Jeremy about today's Supreme Court, you know, if you look at some of the other issues that have been addressed by this court, one of them dealing with liberties and COVID and everything, basically, I think it was Gorsuch said, you know, the Constitution isn't suspended during a virus. So
Mhm.
that's one thing to keep in mind. If he had took that route on that case, and this had to do with, I think, the shutdowns, gatherings, and everything like that,
Mhm.
and in the context of churches, stuff like that. So if you have that line of reasoning on that, perhaps it goes similarly if this sort of thing is revisited. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they distinguish it. The courts do very confusing things sometimes where they have two cases and you say, well, how is this one not like the other? And they twist it up and make a round peg fit in a square hole sometimes.
Sure.
So that's it. That's a good question. I will take a look at that opinion before the next program.
Speaking of rights, there's a thing that I have in the doc. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it. And let me know if you don't want to go on this tangent right now. Maybe save it for Thursday. But
Now we have to.
What? Shut up.
No, we have. I mean, at this point, we've got 20 minutes
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
What is it, Russ? What do you got?
Okay,
Over
so
3 hours.
Apple is making a move to cut down on CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material. They are going to scan people's phones, the pictures and videos, I guess, for content that is similar or matches their unreadable database, which is only begging for somebody to hack it and expose all the material that they have. But they're going to be scanning for this material, and on the surface, it looks like a good move. You know, they're cutting down on this child abuse, sexual material, and you know, nobody's going to be against that part of it. But I have
Scanning
a problem
the
with
pictures, you're saying?
yeah.
Russ?
And if they find something that matches, they're going to basically, you know, I don't assume it's all in one shot, but if you do it a number of times, I would imagine. And it's also going to scan like the messages app for if you're sending or receiving this type of content. And basically it's going to be comparing it to their database, and it's going to, I guess, upload it to secure server type things that the authorities would have access to, and essentially the cops can show up at your door, I guess, although probably not without a warrant. I don't know. But basically it's an invasion of privacy. If they can scan for this stuff now, they can scan for anything tomorrow. And that's the main issue that I have with it. It's
Is
a
this
huge,
in their like terms and conditions now or something?
Yeah, it's in iOS 15 apparently.
Okay.
And the thing that seems odd to me, see, normally I wouldn't bother looking, you know, at big tech with a raised eyebrow any more than I normally would, but Apple at one point had a billboard, a really big one, sprawled across a building that says, "What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone." And they're so,
Apparently
you
not
know,
anymore.
concerned with privacy, and then they
Just
go
kidding.
pulling this move. Yeah. And
Well, I
the thing
noticed
is
that even now you can
yeah.
search, like if you type in like gun in the images, it'll find all your pictures that have a gun in there. So they already have some sort of algorithm set.
Well, yeah, they have the ability to identify it.
now.
They have the ability to identify text based on an image, and you can even edit the text. That's a neat feature for somebody who wants to, you know, maybe edit a meme or
I've seen that on Instagram and Facebook
Well,
now.
hold
People are
on.
covering words up. Yeah.
Chris, you brought up a kind of a point though. Like, I was going to make a joke and say, can you imagine them searching for gun on like Mike or any of your phones?
Exactly.
Find a lot of images.
Right.
But I was going to say, but so take that one concept that Russ said is to use for a good moral purpose or whatever. But then say they do regulations on guns and things like that, and then they're looking through your phone and scanning for that, right? Like, how far does it go? Like, that's going to be the problem.
Well, it
know?
could
'Cause
go.
if somebody finds morally wrong, I mean, obviously we can agree on certain things, but certain things, guns, which is a huge
some
hot
people
topic.
think that's immoral. Which
Yeah,
is,
if it can be used for good, it can be used for evil. That's essentially
Exactly.
what everybody has the potential to be a Gandhi. Everyone has the potential to be a Hitler. Okay, everyone is born with this potential within them.
Including the
It's called
government.
sin.
And generally the governments
Yeah,
go down that
generally the
path
government.
eventually. Yeah.
And
Look at history.
Yeah, that's what
and
CB said too. But they might be looking for more than just that. Might
Yeah,
be
of course.
to go through your
Exactly.
private photos and information, text, email, etc. Of course. I mean, I feel like that's a disguise. Like, let's just call it what it is. I
It
feel like
definitely
that's
is a disguise. It's basically like a, you know, think of a gun registry. You know, you have a database of all the guns. Oh, time to collect the guns. China, you know, in this case, I mean, it wouldn't result in a bad thing. Time to round up all the pedophiles. But you know,
Well,
it could be used for rounding up anybody. It's a huge
Let's round up all the
database.
gun owners.
That's not the concern. Yeah.
It's
it could be gun
basically
owners, right?
it creates
If
a database.
They have the technology to scan the things and find the gun.
Yep.
And that's
Maybe
already in there. That's been in there for years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But, you know, it starts with, you know, the highway to hell is paved with good intentions. That's essentially what it comes down to. And, you know, they could, you know, take the gun scenario. We'll keep using the gun scenario. They can choose for any time you mention guns, any pictures of guns, any ones that say, hey, I just got a gun today. You know,
Mike's got a cannon over his head right now on the new banner.
But it's all done with machine learning.
The government starts looking for people who use guns, Mike's done.
Yeah.
I mean,
come and take it.
They do that in schools, right? Like if kids do anything with guns or have anything, you know, even leaning towards guns, or their parents do, or you know, it's a big red flag.
There was I forget what it was a long time ago. It was probably 2014 or 15. Dana Lash reported on it. There was a kid in Florida who chewed a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun and was like suspended or something. And it's like, I'm sorry. The state of Florida also looks like a gun. Let's suspend that too.
Yeah.
Let's expel it. Why don't we?
Remember,
you know, Italy? That's the shape of a boot, which upside down is also a gun. Let's get rid of it. You know,
what was the Griswold family movie where they got down to Wally World and it was closed, and he's trying to talk to the owner because they had just committed all these crimes to take the kids to Wally World. He's like, you ever take your kids on vacation? He said, yeah. He said, where'd you go? He said, Florida. And Chevy Chase says, well, how would you like it if you guys got to, could you imagine how you'd feel if you guys got to Florida and it was closed?
Florida is closed.
Florida is going to be closed because it's shaped like
a I mean, but that's not so far off though, because I remember there was a time in school where even if you made a shape, it was a new thing. You made your hand in the shape of a gun, especially, God forbid, you know, you pointed at somebody. But, you know, I mean, back in the day, you wouldn't think of that as, like, horrible. It's just little boys being boys or whatever.
I just Googled how much sugar's in a Pop-Tart, and it's like 43% of your recommended daily allowance of sugars.
Just 43%? Is that in one Pop-Tart or just one pack of Pop-Tarts?
I don't know. I'd have to double check.
I don't know. It's basically just
Pop-Tart can kill
glazed with
They're
sugar.
Not good for you. Whatever.
No, right. Yeah. Too much sugar inside.
Whatever it is, it's not recommended.
It's sugar frosted sugar, basically. Yeah.
Just don't eat it.
Oh man!
We could say with certainty.
Yeah.
But I mean, funny. Hey, there's kids got talent.
The Pop-Tarts are not the breakfast of champions.
Right.
Don't be alarmed, people. This Pop-Tart's not actually a gun.
Yeah, but I can totally see a parent flipping out and going home and like, oh my gosh, you know, especially with like school shootings. I mean, you can connect anything real serious to it, but also could just be kids being kids. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's not allowed anymore, Liberty.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're not allowed to make your hand in the shape of a gun. You're not allowed to talk about guns. Nothing.
Hey, when I was a kid,
the word is a trigger word.
Go to the Five and Dime and get a cap gun that looked like a real gun. They were metal, you know, like metal guns without the little red tip, you know.
So the next part of this is machine learning and parental notifications in iMessage, a shift away from strong encryption. So basically, this also applies to helicopter parents can monitor their kids' text messages, and I can imagine it'd be real awkward if anyway. I can imagine that would be an awkward conversation.
Sure.
Well, I know a lot of
parent
parents
and a
now
child.
do the 360 app or something. It's like actually a normal thing. Like a lot of parents do that 360 thing where you can like track where your kid is.
That's creepy.
Location might not be a bad idea. I don't know about reading all their private messages, though. I think you're kind of crossing some lines.
Yeah, I think it is kind of line crossy to be monitoring your kid's every message.
Well, at how old?
What do you mean at how old?
At old. I mean, if your kid's too young and you want to make sure that they're not talking to
that's true.
predators or anything like that.
Okay, first of all, somebody would have to have their number.
Right.
I guess they really shouldn't even be on these platforms.
Yeah, but
that's
probably
it
starts way younger, guys. Guys, like it's
kids grow up sucking on an iPhone.
Kids are brought up.
Was that what was that, Russ?
What did you say?
Did the producer just swear live on the air?
No, I said sucking.
What'd you say?
the F word.
No.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these words.
Who invited Jazzy Ralph on?
Right.
No,
Hold on a
sucking on an
second.
iPhone like you would suck on a binky.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
You guys are messed up.
That was
I
a close
tell
call.
Did you say the bucket
Hold on.
iPhone?
Susan's calling me. Hang on a second.
That was
Who's this guy?
that's right. That's so too.
Good stuff. Oh, my.
So,
Anyway.
We can't recover from that one.
He's just
yeah.
never-
Yeah.
Bro.
Back to the Pop-Tarts.
I'm like
Have some
trying-
sugar, Russ.
The good old that's why they call it an F bomb, right?
Yeah. Pop-Tarts and Mountain Dew. That's good breakfast.
I
Right?
gotta mute.
No.
Uh,
Well,
Can you
whatever.
get that picture in the doc. Why don't you pull up that picture in the doc? Let's distract
God,
everybody
Mike.
with baby photos.
all right, let's take a look here. What do we got?
Mike, I can't show the. God.
Just
Who's this?
Can you like not?
What?
I don't have that computer set up, Mike.
Oh, you don't have the doc ready?
No.
Who's that in the?
Also,
is that-
Cash's number is in the
that Russ?
talk.
Russ.
Oh yeah. No, that's true. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. I can cut it real quick.
Oh,
Can
for
we just-
goodness.
Could I paste it into the Skype chat and then it'll pop up on the screen?
I just cut Cash's.
What about that? Like Rich typed to the group on the Skype chat and it showed up on the screen. What if I paste the picture into the Skype chat? Well, that's good.
Go for it, Mike. Go for
I'm
it.
just picturing Russ.
Does that work?
And Russ just let us all sit there laughing like we thought he did.
I know, right.
He just let us sit there.
Need a button for Russ.
Yeah. All right.
Hit the button.
Oh yes, we have an announcement from CB. CB had reached out for us, Mike, while you're interviewing Cash. For a congressman. Let me get the information. It's in
Oh
the
yeah, his
doc.
commercials are great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had been sent his commercial by somebody.
Was it Ted Daniels?
Say it again.
Ted Daniels, is it? I
Yeah,
saw that
Ted-
name mentioned in the chat.
Yeah, he's running for Teddy Daniels, running for U.S. Congress. He's a pro-Trump, America First combat veteran who won't back down. Shout out to CB for reminding us. And
Yeah.
so CB actually went ahead and reached out to him, and he already replied, and he wants to be on the show.
Awesome.
Great.
What,
That would
like
be great.
right
We'll have
now?
him. We try to set it up for next week. We've got a very special guest coming on for next week's live stream. We've got Robert Borelli, who is an author and a pastor and former organized crime. I love these stories. It says right here's biography about Robert Borelli, from mafia to ministry. Mr. Borelli's story baffles the mind and intrigues the hearts of all who hear it. His latest book, The Witness, is the compelling account of the hard and fast life of an up-and-coming star within the mafia ranks, the downward spiral created by his addiction to drugs, and his spiritual rebirth, spurred by the heart-wrenching plea of his little girl. This book is called The Witness, a tale of life and death of a mafia madman. Born in Brooklyn in the middle of the Gambino crime family neighborhood. By 20, he had 2 murder raps and numerous arrests under his belt. In 1997, as a 44-year-old man, found himself in jail looking to a severe 10 to 20-year sentence. And in jail, he found redemption in the second chance. He is now a pastor. So looking forward to having him
That'd
on
be
the
interesting,
program.
And what'd you say his name was? Paulie Cicero?
No.
The stories are amazing.
Robert Borelli.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to play it, but I put one of Ted Daniels' ads from YouTube in the doc there. I think.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
me
Chris.
we can't use the doc apparently.
Chris.
Oh, we can't use it at all right
Well,
now.
yeah, so
No!
that'd be a great episode next week if we have
All right,
Teddy.
we'll just do it next week then. I
We'll
mean,
do it
we've
live.
almost-
We'll do it live.
We'll
next
do it
week.
live.
We've got enough content for us
Yeah.
to. We got enough content for today.
Right.
Um,
Right on.
plus we've got the Lehigh Valley Tea Party little stint if we wanted to add that to the 3-hour show.
No, we already got 3 hours. Is plenty.
We all got 3 hours. I don't
Yeah.
have. I
Play
was.
us out, Mike.
Yeah. So what do you mean to play us out?
What does that mean?
You should stand up though, so the guitar is right next to the mic.
Stand up, Slim Shady.
The Padron box.
Well, I could
You know what's funny
probably
is
bring it down here.
I just saw some of those when I was traveling, and I never saw them before. How long ago did you get that, Mike? You just got that?
Last week.
Cool.
Last week, I've actually gave me this paper.
I took some pictures for you. I was going to send them to you. It's so funny you just got that.
He gave me this paper that had like all these specs and what he wants everybody to know about it.
Yeah.
Can't seem to find that right now. So he'll get 2 segments out of this.
Yeah, there we
he'll
go.
Get this intro, and then he'll get on Thursday. I'll have that paper, and I will read the stuff about it. But
Can you play some AC/DC?
no, I can't. It's a 3-string guitar.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's
Play
very
Country
unique.
Roads.
It's like nothing else that I've ever actually
it's
played
different.
before.
Mhm.
It's a completely different tuning. 3 strings as opposed to 6. So that I'm just still learning, messing around on it and stuff.
That's
like
cool,
that.
huh?
You didn't need the
When
other
I heard
3
it,
anyway.
That one song came to mind, right?
Awesome.
Ooh, let's
Sounds pretty
hope
good,
Billy
Dan.
Corgan is a patriot.
Is that a copyrighted song?
Yeah, he's gonna say, "Don't play
good
my
Lord.
song."
And I believe that song is when Billy Chris graduated high school. Is that the name of that song?
Sit down, nine.
When
Sounds about
Philly
right.
Chris
That was great.
graduated high
That sounds pretty good
school.
for being a guitar box. Yeah. I mean, a
A
cigar
cigar
A
box.
3-string.
The guitar box is what
Guitar
it is.
box,
It's
yeah.
a guitar box.
That's not the same as playing a normal guitar.
It is not.
Is it
no.
easier or harder because it's 3-string? I guess it's weird to get used to it, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like handing me a violin and being like, "Go." Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
You ever see that
Sure
guy that
would
plays
be a
one
or
shame
string?
maybe
if
not
something would've
exactly, but
happened.
it's something that I've never played before. What?
There's a guy that plays like a 1-string. He's on YouTube.
One
It's like a
Nice.
broken guitar. He
That's-
sounds pretty good though. He's got
that's
millions
talent.
of views. Yeah.
make it work.
hmm
Make it work.
I play
Yeah.
a 1-string on a tissue box. It's made out of my shoestring. It sounds just like a rubber band.
Nice.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nah,
Good.
play us
I
out.
think
Yeah,
the play. I already played this out.
He played us out already, Wes.
Do it live.
All right, then do an outro, would you?
Oh well. Do we have to do an outro?
Yeah, if we're gonna air this. What are you?
Alrighty. That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for We the People, the Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney. No, that wouldn't be it. That wouldn't be it.
No,
You're gonna
we're
have to
looking
cut
for
that
Ben
out.
Shapiro. I'm keeping that in the VOD.
Ben Shapiro.
Uh,
That's all the time we've got for today. Stick around for Ben Shapiro with the Ben Shapiro Show. We miss you, Ellie.